The Custer County Board of County Commissioners meeting will come to order. I would like to ask Mr. Fred Berry, my long-term friend, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. And Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Flower.
Present.
Commissioner Kanda.
Here.
Commissioner Prince.
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
And clerk to the board, Kelly Camper, present.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Gentlemen, any amendments to the agenda?
I do not.
Nor do I.
No.
Thank you. And audience introduction. Mr. Bogle, would you start, please?
Charles Bogle, rural Custer County.
Kathy Garcia, United States Senator Cory Gardner.
Lynn McGree, the airport board, representing airport board.
Bob Jolly, airport manager.
Alan Butler, airport.
Fred Berry.
Jackie Hobby, Planning and Zoning.
Tracy Ballard, Tribune.
Jackie Bubas, Sentinel.
Thank you and welcome. Maybe with 3 airport people, we could get 5 of us to Golden.
Sure pushing that.
Yeah. I don't want to drive through Denver. Approval of the minutes of February 23rd and 28th, gentlemen. I believe you've received copies of those.
Got them, I'll move we accept them.
Okay, both?
Yes.
Yes, I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes as presented from February 23rd and February 28th, 2018 for the Board of County Commissioners. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Minutes have been accepted and approved. Thank you, Madam Secretary, for that. Commissioner items. Commissioner Kanda.
A couple things. Talked to Alan yesterday about a couple things. And Alan, I got a check here for you. I'll give it to you. And for the fuel.
Goes to
Oh,
Robert.
Robert. Okay. Robert, you get this check. Yeah, give it to you when you come up. And I know there's other things they're going to bring up very shortly. And then I got to talk to Kit Shy. I talked to the Rice family about their offer to have us consider some of their ground for a landfill. Told them, what the issues were. It wasn't quite the right topography, and there's some other things associated with that. So they're good with that. They're going to put it on the market, and if it's available, they'll let us know, and we can make a decision if there's some other thing we might want to do with it. But they asked if we'd be considered selling them a right-of-way into their ground through the gravel pit. Said sure. We'll have to see what that means, and I'll get Kit to discuss that and see what the issue would be to do that.
I
We
thought
can
their
decide.
property came around up to the...
It does. It borders
Road.
it borders it, but there's no right of way across where we are, or past. There's a piece of ground. I gotta get the details from Kit.
Okay.
We'll
Yeah.
find out what it means.
Okay.
Into the top end, they've been asking about that initially.
And I thought they owned that property adjoining the gravel pit to the west.
We'll find out.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know what I did with those
They
maps.
asked
I
about
filed them
it.
away. So okay,
We'll
cool.
see. That's all I got since
Okay.
yesterday.
Yeah. Okay, good. Commissioner Prince.
Yesterday I was asked about the tourism board. I followed up on that. I got responses, and I feel that I'm satisfied with the
Okay.
response.
Yeah, I was included on those emails, and I agree. It looks like, number one, that the bylaws did not require that membership. It was recommended, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
I
so,
didn't see that. I didn't realize that. I thought there was something besides the bylaws that said that was when they stood it up. Okay. I'll have to look and see where I got it. There's mention of 3 people on it, so I don't know whether that's part of it or not.
Yeah. Well, it appeared to me like that.
I'm satisfied that they're,
Okay.
I mean, it's an excellent board, they're doing well. And I think there's a
Anyway, thanks for doing that.
Okay, anything else,
Yeah.
sir?
No.
And only thing I guess I would have is, as an informational item is, obviously, last evening was the political caucuses. I attended the Republican caucus for my district, or precinct 3, and was selected as a delegate to the
Well, you're a
county.
super delegate too.
Yeah,
huh?
county assembly, so.
Fred, shake hands?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But other than that, that was it.
Yeah, I did too. I should have mentioned that. That was a good time for all.
Good, good, good. And Councilor Smith, any items this morning?
Yeah, just to follow up from yesterday, I have a copy of the lease between the county and BLM for the
Oh, good.
Hibbs Hill Lookout Mountain Tower. I assume you'd like to get a copy of it, and I can have Brenda do that for you.
Okay, thank
Also,
you.
concerning the Weed Advisory Board, in 2015, there was a resolution, I don't have the number, but I can give the date to Brenda, approving the weed management plan. The law says, the statute says, and I still forgot to print out the memo, so I'll just email it all to you later, but the statute says that it has to be reviewed every 3 years by the Weed Management or Weed Advisory Board, so it's due this year. But they did have a management plan that was approved by the board back in 2015. And I also have a copy of the bylaws for the Weed Advisory Board that I worked on with Rob, and these were actually approved in August of 2016, and it has a list of who the chairman and
Okay.
Robin was an ex officio member then, and that's what Shannon was talking
Right.
about, Shannon Oth was talking about yesterday, but this shows the membership then, and I'm not sure who applied or who indicated wanting to still be on the board. I'll get copies of this
Thank you,
for all of
we
you.
appreciate that. So, as far as we know, there's still not a resolution creating that
Nothing that Kelly could,
advisory board. We have a resolution about the management plan,
right.
but not necessarily about the weed advisory board itself. Would you recommend that's something then we need to,
I think it would be a good idea, and I think I'd like to have perhaps a workshop with the weed
get the board up
advisory
and
board
running?
and talk to them and figure out who's on it, and then go ahead and get a resolution done.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, thank you, appreciate that.
That's all I have today.
Okay,
Can I
Yes.
ask a question? Sure.
I'm just gonna give,
I'm sorry.
no, I'm just gonna give this to Brenda.
Oh, okay.
To say.
Just quickly, the 3 of us are planning on going to Golden, Colorado on the 13th for the broadband continued discussions.
Get a copy with the number on it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. It just doesn't make sense for the county to pay for mileage for 3 of us. If we go together, could you remind us or tell us again, A, is it acceptable for us to drive in one car? And B, if it is, what the protocol we should be cautious about?
Yes, it is acceptable, and it's customary. The commissioners from a lot of rural counties all travel together to meetings like this. There's no problem all being in the same car. Really isn't a violation to discuss county issues, but I would recommend you not talk about any of the county issues. The prohibition is against making any decisions or anything, but it would be better just to avoid, discussing any of the issues that, are before the board. But there's nothing that prohibits you at all. The Sunshine Law does not say that you cannot all be together in the same place, including traveling together.
Thank you very much.
okay, appreciate that. Yeah, I felt the same thing, that it's just ridiculous that we have to be so worried about public perception that we end up driving 3 vehicles up there costing the county X number of dollars when we could all travel together. Obviously, in the past, there was some citizenry concern about that very thing, and I know that's why Jay asked you specifically to address that this morning, but hopefully we are trustworthy enough and that the county believes in us enough that we can travel together. Bill and I attended the same meeting in Denver. We drove 2 different vehicles because we didn't want to set ourselves up to be accused for some improprieties as far as conducting ourselves as county commissioners. I would
And I
desperately
did
like
not
to put this
charge the
behind
county
us.
any mileage. I'm not going
So-
to if I do go by myself. Anyway. But what counties do that? Clint, who'd you talk to?
I couldn't say specifically. I have heard from previous commissioners that when they go to the CCI, for example, they talk to the other commissioners, and a lot of them come, especially
We've
from
got
the
a
western
commissioner in
slope.
the back here. Alan, what was your practice? What and why?
Generally, it worked out that we took separate cars for different reasons. Once, I remember several times where commissioners, Lynn Atterbury had to go to a meeting, and he was going to meet us at this other place. We had to spread out when we got up there to go to meetings, and I went over to the airport front range, and most of the time we drove ourselves, and we always paid for our own fuel because of that. It wasn't because that particular board was afraid of repercussions from the county. It was just, you can meet socially, I understand, from our good attorney, and you can go to lunch and you can visit about all kinds of things, but you shouldn't talk county business, and you shouldn't ever say, I'm going to vote for this or vote for that.
Yes.
That's where the problem is.
And my feeling, just so everybody understands, is recall was an issue, whether perceived or real or whatever. And from what I understand, it was an issue. And so I'm going to do all I can to avoid that personally. And that's why I'm not going to charge the county for traveling if indeed that is an issue, although whatever. And so we just want to make sure we're doing the best we can to make sure that. And right now, I'm really proud of what we've been doing since we've been on this board, all of us, and are doing our best to make sure that the public keeps the trust in us. So, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Alan.
Good.
Thank you, Clint.
Anything else, gentlemen, Mr. Smith?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Katie, anything on administrative assistant?
Nothing today.
Okay, thank you. And before we move into staff reports, I would like to ask Miss Kathy if she would like to address the group. Thank you for being here on behalf of Corey Gardner. So if you'd like to come up, we'll introduce ourselves. Thank you.
I misunderstood. I thought she was Senator Gardner.
You did a good job scaring us.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine,
Tom
and you?
Flower.
Nice to see you again.
Jay
Nice to
Prince.
see you again. How are you doing? Just very quickly, just want to remind you all that our Senate office can assist individuals with problems that they have, maybe with the VA on their benefits, or problems with Social Security, IRS issues, you name it. If we don't have the answer, we will find a resource to help individuals out. As you know, the Congress they had a break, and now they're back to work. Hopefully we can get some work done. Sometimes I wonder what's happening out there, as with everything that's going on. But the senator's working on various issues. One is broadband, and we're hoping to get that bill passed to have some more grant money for communities. He's especially looking at rural Colorado for those grants. And I know there is a bill in the state legislature, Senate Bill 2, that's working on getting some of the high-cost monies out into rural Colorado. So hopefully that will pass as well to help with broadband issues.
The rural broadband bill, do you know that number right off?
Senate Bill 2.
Well, I thought that was the high cost. I thought
Yeah,
there
that
was
is the high
another.
cost.
Wasn't
Was there another
rural
one?
broadband, or is it the same one?
I don't know. I think it's the same
I
one
believe so.
for rural. But there is one in Congress now that the senator introduced. It's a bipartisan bill, so we're hoping that passes because we sure do need broadband in a lot of areas. I drive through, once I pass Lahara, I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't get anything out there. So it's sad when we don't have the technology in all our areas. The senator has been working on economic development issues, looking at how we can help rural Colorado, because you can do all you can by providing grants, and this infrastructure bill that the president is working on getting Congress to look at and pass includes, private-public partnerships. Well, in our small rural communities, we don't have the resources. So that's an area that the senator is going to work on because we don't have the resources in southern Colorado. If you look at the counties in southern Colorado, we've got the highest poverty level counties in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So we do need other resources to help our communities.
Christine, may I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Is this part of that Opportunity Zone initiative that's coming down from the federal government?
Right, and it has, I think, 25% of that money going to rural areas, but it's not enough. We need more
I agree.
more resources for our smaller communities.
Thank you.
Because most of our communities are agriculture, if you look at southern Colorado. And I don't know about you, but I sure would not want to depend on foreign countries for our food, because to me it's homeland security.
Exactly. I don't want to depend on foreign countries for anything that we need.
That's it. I totally agree. But there's a lot of things happening. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well,
And I will let you know next time I'm going to be here so you can line up those questions.
Well, it's nice having you here. Thanks for being here.
Yes, and I'm sorry I haven't been here for a while, but I'm getting caught up now. I will be out and about.
Good. And where do you live?
I live
Sorry.
in Pueblo.
Okay.
I live in Pueblo and I cover 16 counties in southern Colorado.
Wow.
I'd just like to say I've seen Senator Gardner on TV a couple times. He's looking very dapper. And if you'd pass on for me personally and probably for our commissioners how much we appreciate the diligent work he's doing to help rural Custer County, some of the depressed areas that we have, and putting forth initiatives to help us move forward. And I personally appreciate, I watch what he does closely, and I really appreciate the work he's doing.
I will pass that on to him. And if there are if there's grants you're looking for or things like that, let me know. I'd be more than happy to research it. We have a research capability in Washington, and it takes 3 weeks for them to turn it around. But if you're looking for something in specific, let me know. I do have a list of grants that provide monies for broadband.
That would be good. We need that.
I'll go ahead and send that to you.
I have a question too. Do you work with the Action 22 as a committee that I'm sure you're familiar with?
Oh, very
With
familiar.
all and when you said Southern Colorado counties, that's it. So
I used to run Action 22
Did you?
for
So
15 years.
so you have a good relationship with
Oh, yes.
And Sarah is
She's right upstairs from my
top-notch.
office.
Yeah, she mentioned that. So I didn't realize that you worked that closely with them. That's good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
I
well,
worked with them for 15 years, so it's...
So she's got 5 priorities, and one of them is broadband, and other ones. But I think they're key, and those are good things to keep in mind when he's wanting to push dollars down to keep those. I think we all can agree on.
Yeah, we do have, one of the things that we do have a problem with is the fact that, federal monies come to the state. You're looking at transportation monies, and a variety of those monies come down to the state, and then the state kind of does its own little thing. So the senator's trying to figure out how we can get it more out to rural Colorado.
Yeah, the state seems to be focused on 3 population areas.
Yes, and so we've got to get away from that. And so once the senator figures out something, it would be nice because it will help rural Colorado.
Gideon was mad at that I've seen him mad on TV lately about other things the feds are doing.
Mr. Bogle, you had a question?
We have not brought her up and Senator Gardner's office on our current activities, and I'd be glad to provide her a brief and possibly after our next week's DOLA. And then as it relates to the Economic Development Administration matching grants, a letter of recommendation out of the Senator's office would be good.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in the process, Kathy, of next week going up to Golden to present our case on a Department of Labor Affairs grant for broadband for our county for $1 million. So if Senator Gardner's office would,
grant.
and along with the EDA grant
Next
subsequent
week
to that.
is mineral impact.
That's correct.
Board.
Yeah, sorry. And then the federal grant will come after that. So maybe Mr. Bogle can.
Right, yeah, you can fill me in and then I can help you with the letter of recommendation from the
Appreciate
senator.
that.
That'd be outstanding. Good, thank you. Very good. Do you get to the Capitol very often then, or?
Washington?
No,
Denver?
Denver.
I avoid it. I did it for 15 years. I went up there to lobby for 15 years, but now the traffic is worse than I've ever seen it.
It's bad.
It is bad.
That's why Tom wants to fly.
Yeah. I was curious as to
A helicopter?
to the state of affairs in the House.
I don't keep very much track with state like I used to. The other night I came home, I had a meeting up there with our Denver office, and it was 20 miles an hour between Castle Rock and Monument. It was bad. It took me 3.5 hours to get home.
Brutal.
So I'm glad I don't have to go up there.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe this would be a good time to mention something about our court and jail facility needs.
Yeah, that's another issue that, of course, is raising its ugly head all over the state, and we're not immune to that either. We've got some serious issues with our jail facility.
Yes, the sheriff gave me a tour
Good.
a couple of months ago, I think.
Okay.
And yes, you do have some problems. And there are some grants covering jails, courthouses, and judicial buildings. And I will go ahead and send that to you.
We're in the middle of
Perfect.
developing a
Thank you.
strategic plan, vision, and process to meet it.
So sorry. I turned it off.
I remember to turn mine off.
You know what? I better silence mine too.
I apologize. I thought
Yeah,
I turned
so
it
it
off.
Took me until this morning to turn it on from yesterday.
If you could look into that.
I am
for
going to look
possibilities,
into that.
That would be great.
We did have a problem, though. Otero County received a JAG grant for law enforcement, $81,000. They still haven't been reimbursed after 6 months, and so I'm following up on that. So just to let you know, we got to keep on top of them, federal government, to get that money in. And anytime you have a question, give me a call. I'll leave you my card before I leave.
Excellent. Well,
Okay.
good.
Thanks
Well,
so
thank
much
you
for
for being
visiting.
here. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Always
Nice
welcome
to
here.
see you. I
Yes.
hope your drive up was
Oh, it's nice.
enjoyable.
Traffic
Good.
didn't hurt you much.
Oh, no, not at all. I could stay up here all day. I wish I could.
You
Thank
wouldn't
you,
want to be
ma'am.
here Monday.
Appreciate it.
Really?
No, it was windy. Oh, thanks, Fred.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you being here. Staff reports. Airport.
Here he
Come
comes.
forward, sir.
Here he comes.
You can bring chairs if you want, or
Well, we need a chair for Robert.
there's a couple out in the hallway.
Yeah, to tell you.
We don't have a rookie chair, Lynn.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, Jay. How are you?
We say, Alan, long time no see.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Keep everybody out of trouble.
I'm running out.
Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Good, good. How are you? How are you? Good.
Hey, Bob.
Good morning. Well, I brought you some goodies if you don't already have one.
Okay.
Do you have the new
No,
airport
sir.
directory for
Do not.
Colorado?
Thank you.
Brought one.
Everybody needs one of those,
You need
correct?
one of these if
Thank
you're
you,
going to
sir.
hang around with us.
That's our running.
Right.
Actually, that one on the front is Telluride.
Yeah.
Looks like
And we used to fly into Telluride before they had those improvements, and it was a great big dip right in the middle of about the time you were putting your wheels on the ground, you'd go through this dip. This is the aeronautical chart. Even for guys that are non-flyers, the back of it has some information on restricted airspace for the Pueblo area. And just in case somebody would ever ask you, you know, you would know.
Yeah, I got a little bet going.
Also, in there, what started the go find these, the new ones, and hand them out was I was looking to see how many airports had courtesy cars. And most of them do. The bigger airports have rental cars, Enterprise or Avis or somebody. Even Fremont County has one of the car dealerships, Chevy guy, Bradley or one of
Oh,
them,
yeah.
and rents cars. But that was just one of my research things I was working on. We need to address that someday, not today, but
Okay.
there's different ways of handling that, obviously. So it may take a little research on this board's part, our airport board, talking to some of these managers and finding out what they. As far as a report goes, that's what I was going to say. You have got that great big huge briefcase, and then to tell you that there hasn't been a whole lot going on because of the wind, the weather, the rain, kind of kept activity down. But there have been some folks come and go. One bad thing that has happened, and I need to tell our board. We have a doctor, Dan Dunn, who lived in Scott City. He's deceased now. He lived in Scott City. He was a medical examiner for aviation licenses, known as a very good Christian man. Him and one of his friends had gone to Euless, Kansas, and taken part in a church activity. They fueled a plane coming back from Euless and going back to Scott City. And he called back and he said, "I've got a problem. I'm going to come back to the airport." And he crashed, and both of them were killed in the accident. And he has the lease and the hangar on number 16. So Ruth, his wife, will have to be taking care of some of that. I don't know if you'd heard that story
Yes,
or not.
already spoke with Ruth, probably have it sold already.
it's the hangar.
Yeah. Good. And that happened several weeks ago. Dan was a good man. He's a good Christian man. He'd love to come up and go to church here. I believe he went to Church of Christ with some friends that lived down the street from me.
And his last name again?
Dunn, D-U-N-N. Dr. Dan Dunn. And I'm so sorry that happened. He flew in a twin Baron. It's a Beechcraft, very good aircraft. Took good care of it. He didn't take chances. He didn't fly in bad weather. He could if he had to, but he preferred to land and drink hot chocolate and wait till the storm passed. So just to pass that on to you. Which brings up the question of when our board found out that Dan had been killed in this accident. the first thing out of the board's mouth, without thinking, they said, I wonder if he's going to sell the hangar now. You know, we just need more hangars. Somewhere down the road, we've got to address that. Need more hangars, and like Jackie said, it's gone already. I don't know to who, but there were several guys saying, well, I'm going to go call. I said, well, give her time to cry out loud. You know, let's be a little sensitive about this. That doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's sad.
That being said about hangars, Alan, what's the status on Dr. Smith's?
The repair material was brought to, let's see, this Thursday. It comes this Thursday. And I asked, and it came from Ace, and I asked Ace for a 16-foot piece. It's 14.8 to replace this whole piece. Mm-hmm. And they're supposed to call when that comes in, and we'll slide it in the OMS building, keep it from blowing away or whatever. And then I have not talked to the young man that was going to install it, but that ought to be done pretty soon.
Apparently Johnny's in touch with him.
They're talking.
Yeah.
Good.
And possibility there of some changes happening.
That's what I was
with the
wondering
Smiths.
too. Mm-hmm. Nothing official.
Nothing's official, nothing, no one said anything
Do they
or
own
written
that?
any letters, but
Smith's on that hangar.
just, yeah. Yeah, it's his, and he's got it leased. So that one will probably change hands pretty soon too.
Okay.
There are a few problems on that side where people that originally built those hangars did not put electricity in because it was so expensive at the time. I think now it's at about $33,000, and then the next guy pays a chunk, and it comes, you know how that works.
It's pretty steep.
Pretty steep electricity. So most of them got a generator in the hangar, run the door up and down. Have a young lady in the community who wrote us a couple of months ago, emailed us and asked us if she could have her, have I talked to you about this? Her picnic after graduation at the airport. And she had been appointed by one of the senators to go to the Air Force Academy. Of course, then the next step is the selection part, and she'll probably make it. She's a sharp kid. And so we had given her permission that she could, if she clean up and all that she could have her. And her senior picture is with her standing with Monty Lee's airplane. She's got an airplane in the senior picture. Pretty cool. So
Wants to go to Emory Riddle, doesn't she?
yeah.
Or the academy, if she doesn't.
If she doesn't get the Air Force gig, why she's going to go. She'll be a flight engineer. She's going to fly. And Monty has kind of mentored her, taking her places and riding and letting her fly and whatnot. So that's a real honor, I think, for our county and our community for this young lady to get an appointment like that. Not many students get to do that, as you well know. That's all I had on my list. Robert's got a couple of things to talk about as the airport manager. We've got some things that we're working on, but we're just not ready to say, here's this and here's that, and this is the way it would be done, etc. Rather than just telling you a bunch of stuff and then you go.
So what? Yet.
Okay, good. Robert Jolly.
Yes, well, just for your information, we did sell 171 gallons of fuel in February, which is really good for considering the weather. The weather has really been
Who
bad.
is that guy?
Yeah.
Those two guys, or whoever. I want to know that.
But I did get a message from Alan in sort of a cryptic email. And
Back page.
the
Messages.
important one. A guy sent us this email. Like I said, it's a little bit cryptic, but
Pretty cryptic.
yes. And he Alan asked me to follow up, so I talked to the guy on the phone, and he kept telling me what they wanted. And I asked him, I said, well, who are you? He said, we want this and that. And I said, who is we?
Just so everybody knows, they're asking what the maximum allowable weight of our runway is. And that's all it is. So
Bigger
that is pretty
airplane.
cryptic. That means it's a big airplane they're looking to bring in here.
Right, and there's the other part of that.
Jet A fuel.
Jet A fuel.
Right.
So I asked him, I said, who is we? And he said, we bought Wolf Springs Ranch.
That's what I figured.
The south.
Apparently the south end.
South end of it.
And I said, how big an airplane do you have? He said, Falcon 900.
It's like a Boeing 727.
So that runway was designed for a Falcon 900. But whether or not we ever get Jet A is going to be y'all's decision, not. We can make a recommendation, and my personal opinion is I would like to have it for the future.
Bob, if I may just make a comment. We kind of discussed, well, this question came up not long ago, and we thought maybe the Navajo Nation who was purchasing the parts of the Wolf Ranch. Just off the top of my head, I was thinking, if they were willing to pay for the tanks and the installation, and maybe we could give them a discount on the fuel, maybe sell at our cost until such time it's repaid. To me, that sounds like it might be a win-win.
Sounds like he read your letter.
This,
Yeah, I see that.
this email, this is what the guy asked me. He said, would you be willing for us to put in a tank
Love it.
if we could buy fuel at cost? And then you could sell it to the public for whatever. And I said, that's going to be up to the county commissioners.
Good.
So I thought maybe that would be a good idea for you to give this gentleman a call. And
What what we would have to do, there's other things than just a tank. And
Yes.
This airplane has to be pumped up into the wing, so it usually requires a truck. They'd be willing to probably get the truck also in order to get the right fuel. So there's a lot of details that we
Right.
have to look into, and I think we need to meet with him.
yeah, the Falcon 900 takes single point. But there are a lot of jets like the one that Bill Geipel has is over wing, and we've got another gentleman out there that has a jet that he keeps in Pueblo or Cannon City, one. And the only reason he doesn't keep it at our airport is because we don't have fuel.
Right. And unlike general aviation airplanes, the reason for the truck also is you can't back up out of the way, and you can't
Right.
pull in close enough. There's a lot of issues. A lot of details work out, but
Right.
really a neat thing is sort of fortuitous because it's not an Indian Navajo nation. It's a different piece of.
Yeah,
Folks from
these
Texas.
folks are from San Antonio.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
That's
forget
just
his
a
last
thought
name.
that
David.
that would be a
Leverage
win
it.
without us
Oh,
paying
yes.
the upfront cost.
Yeah, and they'll
Texas
pay
guy.
would pay to install it, so we understand. Now,
Yep.
as a commissioner, the guys that decide yes or no on what you're going to do, as you
Just
talk
need
to
to get
them,
the plan
there'll be
together.
other things, yes. And if there's a truck, where you want to keep it, where would you put the tank? If you're going to fill a truck, you can put a tank anywhere.
Let's get the concept
Opportunity
first.
for grants. And I mean, we can get another building made. We're going to have something to cover it with because I don't know if the fire department will want us parking 1,000 gallons next to their fire.
Yeah, in warm weather states,
Could be.
warm weather states, they have those large, tanks, like Fremont County has
Sure.
a 10,000 gallon tank, and they've got a shed over it.
Truck parks under there. Okay.
So that's something, like I say, that they do some research on. We don't
Yeah, I
want to
think it
just.
would be.
We'll add that to our list.
I think that would be a good thing for us to look into. It would be,
Absolutely.
I think, looking into the future, I think it would be great.
Good plan.
Yeah, we just had this discussion at our last staff report meeting
There's
with the airport, so,
There's a helicopter involved in it too.
Yes,
that
they also
turns
have a
jet.
helicopter.
okay, good. What else,
Ain't
sir?
that big plan.
That's all I've got.
Okay,
May I ask a question if I may?
Sure.
Yesterday we learned that some fuel was pumped and the meter or whatever the mechanism.
It's all been fixed.
And the one gentleman paid us, I believe that's probably the check.
Yep.
My question was, do we do an inventory to see if maybe
Yes.
any other fuel disappeared, or are we good?
We're good.
Okay, perfect. Second question was, is the fire truck actually there yet?
No.
Okay, what's the status of that?
Well, the truck itself is down here at the fire department. They are putting new tires on it, new batteries.
And then they'll bring it
They're
up.
equipping it, and then the intent was to.
Okay,
And I asked
thank you.
Dave Tonsing to come see us last meeting, and something happened right as he needed to leave to go to the airport, and he didn't make it, so I didn't get to talk to him. And then I read in the newspaper
Yeah,
where we
kits
changed
now.
fire
Right,
chiefs,
right.
and so they're all changed. And Kit
Yeah.
said, "Well, lots of things changing."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, talk to you later." That was last night.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very
Yeah.
much. Sounds like things are going well. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I had a chance to look at that truck, and that was the status.
I saw
They were working on.
I would
tires.
think, just me, I would think that probably when they get the personnel trained to drive the truck,
Yeah.
move it around,
Right.
that it would show up, because
Good.
Okay, good.
we're
The
not,
airport's all ready for it, we're just waiting for them to
because
go.
the airport board, no driver truck.
Yeah. Jackie, comment or question?
Yes, did you discuss the whole
No,
thing
was
with?
getting ready to ask him about that.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
he's a mind reader.
I think, Attorney Smith, jump in here anytime you want. We were discussing about the appropriate name. Are you an advisory committee or are you an airport board? My contention is if you're an advisory entity, then you would not necessarily fall into the duties and realms of a board. I don't believe you're an advisory committee. I believe you're an airport board, but Mr. Smith has looked into that some as well.
My question was, what was in existence before the authority board? I think that was 1994 when the airport authority board was created. Do you remember what was going on prior to that?
Yeah, the authority board was designed when the county was leaving where the baseball field is down here.
Okay.
When it was leaving and moving to
Silver.
the trade out here to the Silver West,
Okay.
it was DOLA, and I don't know where we would find that information. But I remember, I think it's Whitney Sullivan was the chairman of the board, and they called it an authority board, and they filed it as an authority board, and DOLA accepted it, because that's an arm of the government.
Right.
And
Political
then that's what you did authority boards. But then as time went on and money and all, the government changed, everything changes, a lot of the airports did away with that, and they called themselves advisory boards.
And the
Airport.
authority went from there up to the commissioners, is that what happened? In
Well,
theory.
the authority board was equal to being on the level of a commissioner. That's why they do that. But an authority board also has the capability of raising its own money,
Right.
such as Grand Junction, Centennial Airport, who makes millions of dollars a year, and they have their own CPA, their own. It's a little mini government within.
Yeah. What I meant was you were talking about things changing, and that's what
And things change. That's one of the things that has changed.
Changed over.
I guess the question I had because the authority board was dissolved in 2011, and I can't find any resolution or anything else where an advisory board was actually created. Do you have any documentation that shows that was done?
Probably that wasn't done.
Okay.
And I remember.
All right, and because there was the airport fund in Virginia, Trujillo told me yesterday the airport fund was in existence even prior to the authority board being created. I guess there was some kind of a separate fund. At least that's her recollection, that Sam DiNardo, the accountant for the county, had recommended that, and I'm not sure why that would have been recommended before the authority board, but after.
Well, they had an airport here always, so
Right.
they worked it.
And the county always had a little money to cut grass and stuff,
Right.
and so they had a line, and I think it just said airport. don't think it had repairs and maintenance and fence and just that kind of thing.
But when you, during the time it was an authority board, were you taking care of all of that separately, or was the county still involved in the
The
maintenance?
county was still involved.
Okay. And there were bylaws for the authority board. Were there any bylaws that were done after you became an advisory board?
Yes.
Can I get a copy of that? Because I don't have those.
There's a set of bylaws, and it was, open my big mouth here, but I think it was approved by the commissioners back.
Well, it should have
then.
been.
I think it's signed off somewhere.
Okay.
Then, see, what was the other thing? We have a set of, I don't know, what, 5 pages or so, operating rules for the airport. For instance, it says, we've got bylaws, and then this other set says you can't, for instance, you can't be a diesel mechanic shop in your hangar. You can't.
Alan, that's your special use permit.
That goes all the way to a special use permit.
So that's
Okay,
that's
I'm
what
wrong
that
then.
special use permit is, telling you what uses are allowed on that airport.
Right.
Which is another
Is that right?
issue. That special use permit was issued to the authority board. Was it ever modified or changed when they became an advisory board?
No, that was the subject that brought this up, because I have modified it twice, but we keep switching boards, and so no one has agreed on anything. So when you come to the agreement of what you're gonna call this board, if you're gonna call it a committee or what you're gonna call it, then I can go back in there and clean up that document and show it to Alan Butler and see if he agrees with what we did.
My recommendation would be that we drop the advisory part, because they do more than just advising. They have a lot of independent decision-making
Right.
responsibilities, and I think it should just be the airport board.
Drop the word advisory.
Drop the word advisory.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Because the
We
way
keep
you're
doing what we're
operating,
doing.
You have a budget line, and you operate within that budget line that we
do.
approve, and you need to be able to do that, so it makes sense.
There has always been some type of a budget for the airport.
Right.
30-something years ago, the commissioners had to account for where that money went if they cut some grass. It was very small, I'm sure. I had nothing to do. Well, there wasn't a board, or wasn't. And then Judge Sullivan got this, the word authority board, because that's what people were doing. And then,
Set up his own tax.
the last set of commissioners did away with the authority board and called it an advisory
Right.
board.
Yeah, I agree with Attorney Smith. I just, based on what I know and understand about your operation and how you function, I do not believe advisory is the correct term.
Yeah, and I
You do
agree with
so
that.
much more than coming to us and giving us advice on how we should run the airport. If that were the case, then I'd say yes, advisory is applicable.
Right.
Just an old name, isn't it?
Yeah, given
The
this
word
case, I
advisory.
think board would be the more appropriate thing. But as we talked with Commissioner Kanda, we certainly weren't going to make that name change without this conversation with you guys, having you involved in that. So if you need to take that back to your board and have that discussion.
Most of us are here.
Yeah.
And then talk to Jackie, who happens to be here
Yeah,
too.
the quorum is here. Yeah. Where do we go with this?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. What do you, go
My
ahead.
suggestion would be,
Bylaws.
let your board, if you're approved, if you're okay with the change, come to us, we'll make a motion, and we'll hopefully
Change it
go
by
ahead and make a
motion.
change.
I think it should be done by resolution.
Resolution.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you guys want to know when I go buy a fuel filter.
No, and we don't want to pick the kind either.
No.
Yes, Jackie, you had a comment?
So you're gonna do a resolution?
Eventually, yes.
I'd like them to come back, your board approve it,
We'll
and we'll
meet
do our
next
resolution.
Thursday.
And
Okay,
then
then
we
we
need
can
to
come
wrap
back.
that around SUP and change the wording in that as well,
And
correct?
then talk
And
to
then-
Jackie about this, how to fold in the other requirements, and then you can
Then
flow those
and then
down
I'll
to
tell you
your.
what will be required to get that SUP changed.
Okay.
Also, a map should be on its way of the whole airport. One map for the whole thing.
Guy say do it?
Yeah, so.
He's got it done. He just sent one that wasn't signed. And if I have to, I'll drive over there and let him sign it.
Make him sign it.
Very good, thank you.
The price was right.
It's by one of my favorite restaurants.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Good job,
Appreciate
guys.
that.
Okay.
Good job.
Forward to visiting with you again. Get with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Clint. Appreciate that.
Colorado City, is in Colorado City.
Oh, yes.
That is the most cryptic
Serve
note
breakfast
ever
all
from
day.
a stranger.
Good morning.
Morning.
Public Health.
How are ya?
Good, how are you doing? The good old handshake from somebody who's more educated now than you were when we last saw you, I understand.
know, can you believe it?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's exciting.
I am. I'm finally in one piece, not, yes, spreading germs. Yes. So I can be quick. I really don't have anything new.
Don't bet on it.
I gotta pull up your,
Wait for it.
documents, so if you go too
So
quick,
while
I
he's
wouldn't even
doing
get
that,
pulled up
I would
there.
just like to tell you, for the first time in like 20 years, I got a flu shot. You gave it to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was always hesitant about that because the last time I got one, 20 years ago, it made me sick. It made me flu. It was perfect. I want to thank you.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you
I'm
convincing
glad.
me that it needed to be done.
Yes, I also got the flu shot and the flu.
I've heard that happens.
It's a good recommendation.
But I was sick for like 4 days, not 4 weeks.
That's what I heard.
So-
if you do get the shot and you
Yeah.
still get it, it's much milder. But thank you for that. I have not gotten it.
Good.
Is that in some kind of attempt to get even for the necktie thing now, or are you gonna lobby that?
With this?
No, yeah, the flu shot to the commissioners.
Give me
I'm waiting
time.
for that to start.
It's coming. It's coming.
Mr. Smith, have you been a victim of a flu shot yet?
I did go get a
Did
Same
you?
We went the same day.
Then let's move on. I'm done talking about that.
You're starting to become part of the minority.
That's right.
Okay. So health fair is still on schedule for the 7th of April. And we are all set to do children's screenings, height, weight, vision, BMI, and dental.
You gonna teach us to do shots?
Sure, come on over. I'll hook you up.
Can I give it to him?
You're gonna Kelly's not coming.
The Custer County Kids Council is almost done with their survey, so that'll be interesting to see what kind of data we get from that. That's primarily like how many kids we have in the county that aren't in the school system. So I'll be very anxious to see what that is. So lots of CPR classes going on. Flu shots are still available through March.
Move on, please.
And we're still doing site visits. We have 2 site visits coming the last week of March. And that's it.
Well, now, hold on. You're just going way too fast.
Sorry.
Radon.
Radon. Radon, we've given out 2 radon tests this month, and they're both negative. So,
Okay.
and that's actually super encouraging because those houses were both over 100 years old that they were testing. So,
I had a couple questions about that.
Okay.
Do we, obviously, you keep a record of people who have requested those radon kits?
I actually don't. I just pass them out, and they go actually to the Colorado Department of Public Health.
So they would have a record and the results, 'cause that's what I'm wondering about is how do we track that?
We get it from the state, and it's super easy. We just send, I can send them an email, and they'll send me back a spreadsheet.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a question on that? If you have a radon remediation system in your home, do you still need to check for radon?
Yes, because it's in the soil, potentially.
Okay.
So,
I got a fan that runs 24/7 blowing it in. Okay.
yeah. I mean, it's only like every 5 years. You should probably check it because it's not something that's going to like all of a sudden have
Get
a
worse
little,
so quick.
mushroom cloud of radon in your house.
I wonder why it's glowing.
Yeah. That might be other things too.
Probably more radon from your watch. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I will ask because I guarantee I'm the only one in this room that cannot quote OPPI CHAPS.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So OPPI is the Office of Prevention and Planning of Improvements.
Okay, through
Through
CDHPE.
CDPHE, And CHAPS is the process for which we make the assessment, and that is Colorado Health and
Public something.
Public Services. How's that sound? But it's planning services. So it's actually the process in which we gather the information and make a report, which hopefully by the end of the summer I'll have a nice little report for you about what the health markers are in Custer County, kind of what the temperature is. So, yeah.
Can I say something? As the point of contact for the nurse, speaking on behalf of the entire Board of County Commissioners, I'd like to commend you on finalizing your nursing studies.
Thank you.
And that was a promise you made to us when we hired it. You did it when you said you would, on time, and I and the rest of the commissioners, I'm certain, really appreciate it and congratulate you.
Yeah, good job.
And then end-to-end initiative.
So neighbor to neighbor is that. I need to get better about that. All right. Public health is all about all these little acronyms, which I'm learning.
You and OEM.
So neighbor to neighbor initiative, which is a group that Bob Tobin is heading up, and it's essentially just trying to get neighbors to help neighbors. So, Mrs. Jones down the street needs to get to the grocery store, and Mrs. Smith is going to the grocery store, so let's see if we can't make that happen together. So that's a very broad 3,000-foot view of what they do. But and we're working on getting some of MRC, the Medical Reserve Corps, involved in that so that they can help get folks to the doctor and whatever, along with Rotary. Rotary already does a lot of that stuff, but we're just going to try to kind of help Rotary out. So.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, thank you, ma'am. Other questions, gentlemen?
No, but I get a kick out of your acronyms too. This is a great sentence for everybody to hear. It's Eliza is working toward becoming the SANE provider. SANE. I'm glad she's sane.
Well, that's debatable.
Now we just got to figure out what SANE is.
So SANE,
no, you don't have to do that.
I can tell you, is a sexual assault nurse examiner.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's worse than the Air Force. I'm telling you, the Air Force had more acronyms. Just put a print, say it, and then you can use it. Maybe we'll learn.
Maybe I will get better. I will do better than that.
Personally, I'm glad you clarified that OPP. I thought that was Andy Griffith's kid.
You're killing me.
Yeah,
right.
so...
Hope he was here.
All right, very good. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
See you.
All right, take care.
Virginia's not here.
She's on the phone with her right now. So I believe our administrative assistant is talking to our treasurer, so she will be in shortly, and we'll proceed because the treasurer is the next staff report on our list.
You had a good time last night, huh? Pretty good turnout.
Yeah, I think last year they had almost 100 people.
They had 80 at ours.
Yeah, so it was down, but
Nobody wants to recall you guys yet.
Not yet.
apparently we keep it up.
Try to keep
it's
it
just a
that
matter
way.
of time. And tried to strong arm Mr. Smith into accepting a nomination for a delegate, but he put the kibosh to that. Right now.
It would kind of be a conflict, since I represent all the elected officials.
Good morning. How are you?
Hi, Virginia.
Thank you for coming in. We're running a little behind schedule, so apologize.
There's yours to sign.
Okay. And does this require, I think this requires a motion.
It does.
Yeah, so I'll let you go. Do you have copies of that? Okay, good.
Before we do that,
Yes.
anything it looks fairly standard to me. I asked the same question because there's a lot on here and I don't have a lot of time to absorb it.
Yeah.
Anything out of the usual, out of the ordinary, anything we need to look at, worry about, think about?
That's good.
You done did good, huh? I move that we accept the February 1st through February 28th monthly report from the treasurer.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve and sign off on the monthly report from the treasurer's office. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed nay. Motion carries. Report has been accepted. I will sign said document. Anything else of excitement or?
No?
Wonderful. Keep up the good work.
There you go, ma'am. Thank you. Appreciate that. That was fast.
See you later. Thanks for coming by.
Would you compliment him on his tie?
Compliment him on his time? That's a beautiful guy.
Thank you.
It is. We know he's got at least two now.
That was worth every minute you spent in here. Giving me the stink eye over there, it looks like. VSO. Good morning, sir. Welcome back.
Thank you,
Let me
sir.
look at you. Yeah, you look pretty
You're
good.
still looking
I'm
all
still
right.
alive, still alive.
How was it?
On the right side of the grass.
Long story.
For those who do not know, Mr. Tim's undergone some surgical procedures and other
Well.
things, so,
And I'll get to that at the end because I had a curveball from last time I saw you guys. But
well, remember,
we'll come back to that.
at our age, that's all we live for, is to talk about our ailments. So
Okay,
we're
well.
dying to hear about that.
Oh, it gets interesting, more interesting than. Here's the original, and here's copies. And,
Sorry.
and I don't think I'm gonna be as quick as we can, but I'm gonna try.
Oh, you could.
I'm gonna try real hard.
You're in no rush.
Okay, no, I'm just, okay, monthly report, state report. Pretty standard. How many phone calls, visits? Because I was out due to some medical things, so I had 49 office visits still. But normally February, around the 80s. You know, it's the last 3 years I kind of been tracking how the pattern goes. So, and I made sure I got your name spelled right this time. Okay.
Let me just say thank you, sir, for that.
I may be slow, but I'm teachable.
I had several monetary bets placed on whether or not that was going to occur today, so you cost me about $60. No.
So who's buying me lunch then for getting it right? Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to tell you about that.
Misspelled March.
You know, I thought I caught it and reprinted it. Oh, I did. Okay. Yeah, I did. But I thought I had reprinted it.
Well, the
I guess I
nice
did.
thing is, sir,
Yeah.
hey, you're in good shape because on the original it is correct.
Okay, so I did reprint. I knew I reprinted something with the correct that, but I forgot to.
So you are
paste it.
dodging some bullets
Good,
today.
good.
You did the right thing.
Yep.
Hey, you have to realize Chicago public school grads. You know, the fact that we can read and halfway spell, we're doing good. So, anyways, no real surprises on the report. And then the last page, just to show the monthly growth of the database, we're up to 450.
Okay.
So we just keep adding as far as that goes. Okay.
Got a question for you.
Yes.
With all due respect, because I know you've been in and out of the office some, we had talked last month about starting to track non-county services.
Yeah, and I've got to come up with a system. I thought that the state database would allow me to sort that as I do my appointments. It doesn't. So I thought I could just a month go in and pull up. There's no option for me to sort by county. I can pull up all my vets. I can do other things, but I can't. I can do it by city. I can do it. I just can't do it quick. How many that month came and what counties it came from.
And is that
so it's going to have to be a manual.
In-house?
I'm going to have to do a manual track on that. Okay, so I'll start that this month. So I apologize for that.
No problem.
Computer programs, you just think they can do them all, but
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and I'll move that we accept the February 2018 Colorado Department of Military Veteran Affairs local report to the state and federal government as necessary.
okay, I'll second.
All right. Been moved and seconded to accept and sign the monthly VSO report. Further discussion? Again, I would ask, just as a housekeeping thing, if on these we could get a signature line so we're not just throwing.
It's a state form. I emailed the state.
This doesn't come from you.
No, this is a state form that they sent me. I can't I have no way to
Okay,
edit.
that's fine, no problem.
I did send an email requesting to see if there was something to do, and I haven't heard a response back
All right,
yet.
good.
So,
All right. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Your
okay.
board has, I'll just sign it above it.
Okay.
It's a little weird, but
Yeah.
Tim,
Yeah.
as far as tracking the out-of-county ones, you might talk to Chuck, because he's come up with some really good
Okay.
reports for other offices, that, and maybe he could come up with something that would be simple.
You might be able to hack in and break it.
Well, the system I'm using is a state database that's the server's up at Denver. And that's where all my data goes to. So that's where I have to pull it out of. So I don't know if they're other than having a separate. Yeah, I'll talk to them now and see what comes up. Okay, real quick. John Brent's came down March 16th. He is a counselor up at the vet center, and so he contacted me. He is now Fred Strickland used to be the counselor who was the outreach guy, community outreach guy. John took over. So John came down to visit. We had a good conversation. Since I've been here, one of the questions, especially my first year, came up a lot was, what about ever happened to that van? The VA's got a traveling van for counseling and so forth. And I was told that they stopped coming up here because it was too far off the main highway and so on and so forth. Well, John is one of the guys that drives the van. So we're in discussions about possibly reinstating and having that come back up, okay? He will be also at the health fair coming up. So we will be there. John, myself, and then Rosemary Jones, who's the home-based primary care nurse for the VA program. She will also be at the health fair, okay?
Could you please tell him that being out of the way does not make our veterans any less important than any other veteran in this state or country?
Yeah, he agrees
and
totally.
I really want him to come up.
Yeah, he really he says if it means bring a van, or he would like to come at least once a month. Is what his plan is.
That. Okay. Thank you very much.
So the key is going to be then is to get vets to show up, because they, like when Fred came my first year, I had him come every month for a while. We get one or two that would show up, and then but he after a while, then the supervisor told him, hey, the numbers don't justify the time.
Yes,
so
one justifies it.
VA world, in my VA world, that I have to do. Trust me, we have had that argument.
If we need to send a letter stating that, we'd be glad to do that as commissioners.
Please let us know, and I'll bet you Senator Gardner's office wouldn't hesitate to jump in and agree with us.
That's right. I will
You got to go both ways too, Tim. You need to get the letter out to the vets so they understand there is that service.
Oh, we did.
Otherwise,
we did. We had stuff going out.
But the thing, and you've said it several times, is, well, the VA doesn't do or doesn't want it. Well, you know what? We can have a say in that.
Yep.
We can say, you know what? Maybe you don't, but understand
it's an everyday. It's an every fight. I'm fighting every day.
Well, I'm saying you don't have to fight it alone. We should jump in the fray.
And that's why October I had the regional director here. We had the VA town hall meeting. So we just keep communicating and we just keep going. So
get us there and we'll fight with it.
Okay. Okay. But John's definitely we've had a good conversation about it, so I think some good things are going to happen there.
Good.
So, like I said, the health fair, I will be at the health fair with John and Rosemary Jones. Rosemary, I know real well because my dad's been in the home-based primary care program for the last year and a half, and he's now in hospice down in Hildebrand. And one thing with my dad's situation, there was an up-close learning situation about the home-based primary care program, and just let know is once my dad became hospice, he was in home hospice. Now he's down in Hildebrand. Rosemary found out, and this was some for her, that the VA is paying for my dad to be down at Hildebrand. So he's a non-service connected rated veteran. They always pay 70% or higher. They pay everything, but because he's hospice, the VA does pay for hospice care. So that's good information to get out to the community, because I guarantee over the years we've had other veterans go other places and nursing homes that are also hospice and probably had some private pay involved at some point. So, but as long as you're in the VA system, they will pay for that. State training conference coming up on the 10th.
Excuse me, sir.
Sean, what's up?
Okay.
What's up?
Oh, I didn't know what was going on here. I was trying to show you guys where the gold was.
Okay, well, have a seat, please.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
How you doing, Sean?
Good.
Good. Okay. State training conference, annual conference is always in April for training. That's required that I go to, so that's coming up. And then the other thing I thought I mentioned, April 14th, the day after I get back, Freedom Paws, Sandy Esposito down in Kansas City. She is involved with Freedom Paws. Freedom Paws is an organization that provides service dogs for veterans. And so I'm actually sponsoring a table down there. I mentioned I got 3 more tickets to sell. So I just thought I'd mention 2. It's a great cause at $30 each. It's a great function. It's a great event. And matter of fact, Sandy is blind. Her husband's a Marine vet. Matter of fact, she's getting a new service dog herself this year. So, but I just thought I'd mention that.
Time and location for that?
It's at the Abbey on the 14th of April. I want to say 6 o'clock, top of my head, it starts, but it's great.
And we buy the tickets from you?
Yeah.
How'd you get the word out? Did you send it out? Is it other than just them?
Well,
locally here, did you put signs in the stores?
No. Okay. She's taking care of the PR, publicizing.
All right.
Okay.
So
She asked me if yeah, and I thought I had all 10 tickets sold, and a couple people were going to be out of town. So I just thought I'd mention it. It's a great cause. She comes up once a year normally, comes up here to Westcliff. So, and the only other thing left is my update.
Can I
Okay.
ask you a question?
Yes.
For confidentiality, I'm not going to mention the name, but I got
That's
a call
okay.
from a woman last week,
Uh-huh.
and it's her father who lives here. He's a veteran.
Uh-huh.
She's taking over as the court-appointed guardian and conservator. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this or not. She was trying to get a hold of you, but you had other things going on. But it's now talking. I wasn't sure if you were familiar. I told her that
No.
she's trying to get him evaluated for being admitted. He's apparently got bipolar that's out of control.
I have to double check my notes. I had a lot of phone calls when I came back. And
Because that's why she called me, because she couldn't get a hold of you, and I knew what was going on with you. I'll talk to you, give you the name, I'd say.
Yeah. And my voicemail mentioned I'd be gone from such day to such a day, so I'll double check it. I had 120 some emails and quite a few phone calls when I got back. So last time I was here last month, the update I gave was I was pending surgery, but I had to get clearance for cardiology before I could have my surgery done. I went and had the stress test done, failed the stress test. The cardiologist was concerned about a blockage. So instead of having surgery done on the 21st, I had a heart cath done on the 21st. And they found nothing. There was no blockage, no nothing. But that still kept me out of commission for about the same amount of time as I recovered, because I went through the artery in the arm, and no typing, no writing, no nothing for a week. And so, anyways, so I'm cleared for surgery. My surgery is now scheduled for the 26th of this month, which I have to have that surgery done before I can have the second surgery done later on in about 8-12 weeks for to have the tumor removed. The other thing that happened while I was out, I did 2 other appointments. I put in my post-op follow-up for the heart cath, but then I went and saw an ENT. As you may recall, I've been struggling with a cough for years, but it's really gotten bad the last year and a half, and so that's what triggered a lot of this. Was I went to go get scoped because I was concerned I had the problem here. That's how I found the tumor, and that's triggered all the dominoes. Well, I went to an ENT on Thursday. Talked to him for 5 minutes. He diagnosed me with cough variant asthma, and he said CAT scan the head, the whole thing. Anyway, short story is he put me on prednisone. Within 24 hours, my cough is gone, and I have not coughed in 6 days.
Can you play Jello?
No, I can't play Jello. But anyways, so I do have asthma, so that is triggering us to evaluate some personal decisions and so forth, options due to health concerns and so forth. But we'll keep the county informed on what we decide to do. So
sounds like you're on the mend and
yes,
being taken care
yes.
of. That's the most
So
important.
so now I'm down to just having these next 2 procedures done, and I should be all done. Okay.
Keep it
All right. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Go Army.
All right. Hey, 2 years in a row, beat Navy. We're doing good.
I'd like to buy tickets. So
Okay.
I'll come over.
I'll be over there all day. All right. Thanks.
Tim, I'm just going to talk to you outside for just a second.
Sure.
Okay.
It's at 5. It's at 5 on the 14th, Saturday the 14th. 5 p.m.
It's 5 p.m.?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll put down 6.
I'm going to. Okay.
At the Abbey still?
Yes, it is at.
Okay, next up,
Thank you very much.
Office of Emergency Management.
Good morning.
How are you?
Busy,
Did you
busy.
notice I did not say OEM?
That's good. Now you can correct me as soon as I
Well.
spit out an acronym and forget to say
Yeah, watch it.
Yeah, I'm bad. Acronyms. And while I was sitting in the audience, I found a couple spelling errors and a word missing.
Yeah, we're pretty picky.
I'm getting that
This
impression.
isn't a final exam,
Okay.
okay?
Well,
No, the test is coming. I'm pretty sure on that.
we've certainly let a few things slide, so we're not gonna hang you out to dry.
Much.
Do you have any questions? You want to give me want me to give you a couple highlights?
Yes.
Okay. Highlights. Last Friday, I went to La Junta to the DFPC, Division of Fire Prevention Control. Basically, it was a strategic planning 5-year plan. The bullets there are they're trying to build state capabilities via a budget funding request. Mike Morgan, the director, is saying we have a fuels problem in Colorado. We're not, they're not going to predict fire, but we know south of Highway 50 we are in, we got some real concerns, including drought and stream flows and lots of good stuff there. They're looking to expand a mutual aid period to a 24-hour period and maybe provide all hazard support because a lot of them are seasonal, and we no longer have a seasonal wildfire calendar. It's becoming year-round.
And changing that from 12 to 24 hours, was it 12 before?
It is 24. Yeah, they want to change it from. And on their mutual aid, I don't know. But they're actually even talking to Forest Service, and there's some discussion that Forest Service may be doing some mutual aid. That's a hard one to push across that federal jurisdictional boundary. They were actually specifically requesting our input on dispatch capabilities and resource mobilization gaps. Resource mobilization is going to definitely be a topic that we'll be talking about at the CES meeting. And so when you get in your silos, you've got emergency management and fire prevention control, and then CDOT and public health. And so we talked about trying to break out of those silos a little bit, and and then the federal side, the Forest Service. So that was an interesting conversation. I'm glad I went. They know that we have issues with Gallagher and residential assessment rates and other big things coming. The fires over the weekend, the big fire that was out by Kiowa, the Rabbit 22 fire, they did not qualify for emergency firefighting funds. And we had just talked about this on Friday. One of the fire personnel from Comanche Grasslands was there. And the rule is you've got to be within a mile to do that mutual aid. And we have a 39% of our land is federal, so we're usually going to be within that mile closer. But so local leadership was hesitant to call in resources, and that was a resource that was available. Fort Carson wasn't because of their fire. So they were able to pull some disaster emergency funding Sunday night to get the go-ahead for Comanche to come in, and that was through the emergency management side in the governor's office. So I didn't know that funding avenue was an option, but I talked to Christy at length about it, and I think we need to be ready to bang on every door we can as fast as we can. Ed Surjanic from BLM sent me a small grant opportunity that might be able to help us mitigate towers. He wants to go visit tower sites. And then coming up, we've got the CES meeting on the 20th. I got a lot of things there to try to talk to people about. The Before the Fire workshop, I was just telling Kathy about that. That's March 22nd at the Pueblo Emergency Services Bureau office. So far, I know they've invited some folks on the state elected official side, and they don't have any commitments, and they're trying to get some state, and I'll invite Kathy and see if we can get some federal representation too. And then the Ross Resource Mobilization, that is Pueblo Interagency Dispatch. Those are 2 separate days. I'm going to attend April 3rd. And those are the biggies upcoming. And we just keep working towards preparedness. On the mitigation side, I know of only one grant that's out there that one of the communities is trying to get a mitigation grant. There really isn't funding, and everything's so far out. The folks that are going after it, I will support them. But at this point, it's, homeowners need to get involved. Don't mow the lawn when the wind is blowing. But people need to be, so I brought some of the Ready, Set, Go brochures, but, mitigate, get prepared, and be ready to evacuate. Know all your ways out, and don't rely on communications and technology. And not to say that I can predict fire either, but I think we all need to, be good Boy Scouts and be prepared for the worst and hope for the best.
Amen. Can I ask a question if I may, please?
Sure.
On the Junkins fire, have we received all of the matching funds that we've been expecting to get? Or are there still any funds outstanding?
We don't have a reimbursement request in. Fire got some money on Junkins Fire, I'm sure. That's what Christy calls the green machine. I'm not sure we can count on that in the future. We have not gotten a bill for the Junkins Fire. And I found out on Friday the price tag on the Junkins Fire, it went from 11 million to 13.5 million. Yep. We don't have a final because it went FMAG and came back to that 6 a.m. start point. We got really, really lucky. There's going to be a finance piece to this before the fire workshop from Fire Prevention Control. And then Joe Loviando is willing to come back, and I'm thinking maybe the April CES, but he's willing to come back and sit down and do a more expanded finance piece. And finance is such a hard animal because it depends. There's so many different circumstances. So I was telling Commissioner Flower the other day, the Millsap fire in Fremont County last year, I think it was like 37 acres, $280,000, and Fremont County just did a cost share where they're footing at the $100,000 of the bill. So little bitty fire, big bill. I mean, Fremont County could probably do a little better than we can, but that is one of my concerns. One of the things for the CES meeting is the disaster decks. I think at times Wet Mountain, if they need to look at filing a disaster deck just to have it done, and then they go into Fremont County, as you know, and then Rye Fire Protection comes into Custer County. So we're having some conversations about those capabilities and decision points, and at what point can we order resources for Fremont County, and can Rye Fire order resources for Custer County, and how do we know up front? We don't want to wait too long. That was the conversation Friday. If you need the resource, you need the resource, and then Sunday night they're like, oh my gosh, who's going to pay for this? We're waiting. So that's why you guys get paid the big bucks. Help with that stakeholders meeting. Donna just sent me this.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll take it back.
Give
then.
it back.
Didn't know if
Yep.
you'd seen it.
I just saw it sitting in the audience.
Was it the electric bill?
Yeah.
Second one. So,
That's going to be on the CES agenda.
It was a donation from
before.
last year? Are they going to charge us for last year? What's the deal on that?
My understanding is that we were never billed for the tower, which went in, I think the intergovernmental agreement's 2009 or something. And now Sangre de Cristo, first of the year, started sending those power bills.
I wonder if I
How
need
much
to have
is
a
it, just out of
conversation.
curiosity?
180 bucks. I wonder if I need to have a conversation with Paul Erickson and find out why this is happening. And I will certainly do that if the board feels that that's appropriate.
I looked for that original interagency agreement between the state and the county to send it to you as an email. I know there's a hard copy in my files. And I know, at least in that original contract, it does mention
Who agreed to
utilities.
maintain it? Do we know?
County.
Well, the county did.
Yeah.
But there's somebody maintaining included the power agreement.
Yeah. It addresses utilities.
I thought they were supposed to pay and we maintain it. Wasn't that the original agreement?
I'll scan that. I know I've got a hard copy. I'll scan it and forward to all of you so that you have a chance to read before you call them up. And then I think the mutual aid agreement, whatever it was called in the MOU in 2000, late 16, early 17, that didn't get signed by all the partners. I mean, I don't think there's anything to prevent us from having an agreement subsequent to the agreement with the state. But, I know the clinic's position seemed to be that, that's not their responsibility, and whether that goes back to E911 or you as a decision maker. But I can certainly bring that conversation up. Terry Munson asked for that to be on the agenda, and so I was going to hope she leads that, but if not, I'll step in.
So who's going to pay in the meantime? We got it.
Well, county.
Counties.
We paid it last month, and we'll have to pay it this month. But so I'd like to get all the pieces in place and then have a conversation with.
And I asked Chief Scheid, we've got to sit down next Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and I've got a laundry list of things to touch base with him on, so I can add that to the list. And I want to talk to him before, I talk to the fire board.
And will you bring up the MOU?
I certainly
The lack
can.
of signature from the
Yeah,
fire department?
because the fire department and the clinic, so the sheriff's department, the county, and the school signed, but the other two players never signed. And fire, my understanding is they've decided not to sign because it's utilities, and the MOU says maintenance, cost sharing on the maintenance. And that MOU also says that, fire's responsible to go take care of it, do everything. And so depending on where this conversation goes, you may want to rethink and, start over and decide if you want more of a role in that, because it is your tower.
That MOU that I read, I don't think utilities was specifically addressed in there.
I didn't see it.
So,
but the original one with the state, I know it is.
Yeah.
So
right now we're getting hung out to dry. And
yeah. I'll scan the state one, send that to you, and then I'll attach the proposed county one from 16-17, just so you have them both in the same email and you can compare apples to apples. Copy Clint
as well.
Okay. I could do that.
And if we need to rewrite that MOU, then I mean, obviously, I don't. Based on sitting in their board meeting, I don't see the clinic's position changing in this document the way it's worded. So
yeah, I don't either. And the next E911 is not until April. So, but I think CES is an appropriate place for all the agencies to at least discuss it. Right. Not that we could maybe make a recommendation, but no agreement. That's on the 20th.
From 2 to 4, so I'm on the calendar to be there.
Thank you very much. The only thing, other thing that I had was you probably all saw Shannon's email looking at fire restriction potential, and Joe Lobiondo said there's nothing else, no other restrictions he knows of. I don't think Los Animas ever comes out of restrictions. And then Ty Webb sent me, they're meeting 2 of the 3 criteria, but BLM is not foreseeing going into force in fire restrictions. So, but Friday's going to be another red flag day.
Yeah. So. Okay. All right. Very good. Anything else, gentlemen?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Are you going to leave a couple?
I'm going to leave them.
Thank
yes,
you. Okay.
I'll leave some for you
Thank you.
Some for everyone else who wants one. Thanks. Thanks. Take care.
Gentlemen, if there's no objection, I'd like to call for about a 5-minute recess.
Why not?
We're in.
Yes, all secure.
Call the meeting back to order. I was going to thank Kathy for the business card, but she's gone. So, all right, let's get back on track. You okay, Miss Kelly? We good?
Yep.
All right. Next item of business is old business. Gentlemen, anything to come before the group?
I do not have anything.
No.
Nor do I. We'll move on to new business. First item under new business is a conversation with Miss Beth Lenz with the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments.
And I'm bringing Rusty in.
Okay.
You got backup?
Yeah, well, no, he knows so much more.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Way to go. You got her fooled.
How are you, buddy?
Keep them guessing, right?
Right.
Hey, Rusty.
Hi, Kelly.
I
thought you were
Kelly Camper, our clerk and recorder, and secretary to the board. Okay, good. Good.
So, Jay asked me to come today. I did. We completed a solid waste optimization study last year, which is why Rusty was laughing. He laughs at me when I go in and go through trash. So I wanted to bring a copy. So you get the original?
I guess so, yes, ma'am.
There you go.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of supporting documentation that goes with this. Thank you. But upon completion of this, there are some things about each county that we've tried to go back to the counties and say, okay, we've got some concerns.
Explain to my fellow commissioners who you are, what you do,
Sure.
how you fit into this scheme. Give us a little background before you
Okay,
get into the
I
nuts and
work
bolts.
for the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments, which is a government that, or an organization that houses area agency on aging, housing programs, a lot of different programs that are more economical to operate on a regional basis rather than on a county by county basis. We started a regional recycling program in 1998. The state approached us, saw that there was no recycling services going on in this area, and they said, would you be interested in taking this on? We are a member-driven organization. All of the counties are members. So we went to the members and said, all right, are we interested in taking this on? And how we went from that point is we did community meetings. That's how the board decided to move forward, and we actually placed bins on site in 1998. In Custer County, we've got 3 sites. There's a site across the street from the fire department. There's a site at the Dome in Silver Cliff, and there's a site at the landfill. We work really closely with Christy, with Oak, and this guy. Rusty, yeah. So we saw some disturbing things occurring last year with CDPHE. They had hired a couple of consultants to do an integrated solid waste and material management plan. And when the document came out, it was 320 pages of, yeah, it was pretty intense because the consultants didn't consider rural areas. They wanted to regionalize landfills. Our region would have been the mountain region, and it would go from Wyoming to New Mexico, just a nice section, straight down. And then it really made, it had the intent of making recycling a mandatory thing in all areas, funded only by licensing fees on your haulers. Now, if you're in a community like Pueblo County, and I'm using that as an example, not that I think that it should happen, they have 16 haulers, lots of trucks. And the cost of implementing this ban would be laid at the feet of those haulers. When you look at more rural communities where you've got 1 or 2 haulers, there's no way that they can cover that cost. So then the counties actually have to be the ones who are responsible for this. I had attended a meeting, a CCI meeting, a regional CCI meeting at the invitation of my commissioners, and, because I was very concerned about the document. And CDPHE had talked to CCI and said,
CDPHE,
Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment.
I should have known that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
CCI, Colorado Counties.
Got them.
Okay. CDPHE, Joe Schifflin, who heads up the division, had said, we have no intention of implementing. This is just a study. We just paid consultants to perform this. We're not interested in implementing.
Trust us.
Absolutely. And then
Just like wasted
2 months later, I went to a SWANA event where Joe was speaking, and I heard the words, "We're looking forward to implementing," come out of his mouth. And so at that point, I started paying more attention because the cost burden really falls on the counties. Recycling, especially in rural areas, because we don't have the economy of scale. I mean, we don't have the population that's going to make it profitable. It's going to cost. It's going to cost us. And if we ban everything, it's going to cost us a lot. So,
that's all over.
Well, so in the meantime, we've worked with, and I have to give Christy a lot of credit. She stepped up, and I ran for the board for the Colorado Association for Recycling. Christy serves on their policy committee now, and we've kind of both her and I are very stubborn, so we're trying to get them just a little. we are trying to shift the focus away from this huge burden, and I think we've been pretty successful. One of the things CDPHE has done is they opened up a grant to do regional studies to really find out what's going on in an area, because they realized they didn't know. So,
what's going on with Custer County?
well, Custer County is a little concerning. So, Custer County has a landfill that is about 6.3 years from closure, with no reserves in place. On average, a community starts looking at funding for a landfill 15 years out. And you're 6 years and you don't have the funds to even do the engineering for an expansion. I know that, it's okay, we can do a transfer station, but a transfer station will probably quadruple your trash bills because your tip fees are rather low. Then you have to look at the cost of hauling. Each transfer truck costs approximately $140,000. You're going to need multiple trucks in case of weather. It's, Howard Disposal runs a transfer station in Fremont County. They put over $1 million into their transfer station, and they didn't build it. That's just what they had to put in once they took over. Waste Connections is actually who built the transfer station. I know they had at least $1.5 million in it. So it's a very costly, very. Custer County is a county that we estimated, we met before the meeting this morning, we estimated about 33% of your population self-hauls. So they either take their trash directly to Oak or they take it out to the landfill. When you're talking about trash rates increasing, quadrupling, then you can really look at a correlation between illegal dumping and the trash rates. On a day-to-day basis, you've got that segment of the population that will illegally dump. You've got that segment that would never consider it. And actually it's at double. When you double your rates, then you're looking at, okay, we're going to start seeing a huge increase in illegal dumping. So that was very concerning. In this study, what we did is we had stakeholders. We invited anybody who's interested in solid waste. Given the controversy that was happening last year, we did have one commissioner who participated. We had thought about bringing in all of the candidates, but that was a little bit difficult. So instead, we went to Rusty, we went to Christy, we brought in Joni Liebman. We wanted to get a real good basis. It was very interesting. Custer County generates less trash than any other county in the region, which is an amazing thing. It is. So the national average is 4.41 pounds a day. Custer County is at 4.69. This is on the first marked page. Custer County is at 4.69 pounds, so yay. And then we did a solid waste plan in 2005 where we had a minimum diversion rate. So because we do waste audits, it's like a snapshot in time. We go out and dig through everybody's trash, divided into all these categories. In 2005, he laughs every time. In 2005, we estimated that 6.2% of your trash is getting diverted.
Diverted from the hole in the ground?
Diverted from the hole in the ground, yes. In 2016 or 2017, we estimated it at 16%. So, yay, amazing increase. The state average is 19%. Nationwide average is almost 39%.
So how'd you determine that, just out of curiosity?
There are audit standards, and I can show you what the audit standards are. You go through the trash. Well, number one, you need to find out what volumes are being recycled in your community. Mm-hmm. So you get the volumes. And a diversion rate is actually quite simple. Take the amount that's going in the landfill, take the amount that's being recycled.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. It's a simple,
Simple math.
very simple, yeah. But then we also look at the waste characterization study. Really looks at what's in your waste stream, what can be recycled.
So we've been getting better.
Absolutely,
Okay.
phenomenally better. Custer County was the only county that we didn't find not a speck of glass, which was shocking.
No way.
Yeah.
They're not recycling?
No, not in the samples.
Oh.
In the samples, there was no glass. Yeah. As far as, so on the very first page that's marked, you'll also see a breakdown of what was in your trash. Hazardous and special waste, 7.1%. You didn't have any hazardous waste, just so you understand. So on the second page that is marked, we actually go through some of the recommendations and some of the feedback that we received from the stakeholders. One thing that 100% of the stakeholders agreed that funding for landfill expansion needs to be a priority. 100% also agreed that they would support a tip fee increase if it were solely set aside for landfill expansion.
Is it talking about county or region?
County. These are county specific. Rusty does a phenomenal job. I have to give him.
Thanks, Beth.
Even though he laughs at me. I'm a landfill geek. I go and visit landfills on vacation.
I was gonna mention that. That was the comment. That was the comment that you said at our meeting a couple of weeks ago that I said, this lady's got to come down here.
My husband hates it when I say, "Oh, let's drive."
Let's go visit.
So I have to give a huge amount of props to Rusty, but he's been operating in less than enviable conditions. The fact that we are 6.2 years from the end, and
Be careful, he'll be asking for another pay raise.
really,
Keep going, Beth. You're on a roll, I'm telling you.
can we break for a minute?
Uh-oh, kick back out here. What are we gonna do? I mean, if it takes 15 years from the time you start thinking about it, I mean, Rusty, we all met, including our counselor, met just a couple of days ago. We had a tour of the landfill. Rusty showed us multiple areas we could expand to. Mr. Chairman said, and rightfully so, it was so clean where we walked.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was fabulous.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was fabulous. But what really gnaws at me, because we went through this last year with prior commissioners, that we're running out of space. We have to do something.
Yeah.
And I really think this is an urgency that we need to get moving.
Nobody wants to pay more for their trash service, and I get that. I totally understand that. But you're getting down to that point where you're either going to pay a little bit more now to fund a landfill expansion, or in 6.2 years, your landfill is going to go away, and you're probably never going to get that permit again.
Right.
CDPHE is not, they're not handing out landfill permits.
We're not going to let that happen,
Yeah.
just to let you know.
And we have a problem barging it
So
out
we
of
want to
Custer
make sure we
County.
can tap all sources
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah.
So that's where we need help.
I think that the fact that 100% of the stakeholders, 100%, were supportive of a tip fee increase. And we're not talking about this massive tip fee increase. We sat down and we came up with a scribbled out plan that really was not as impacting on the residents.
Who's the we?
The stakeholders.
So let me ask a couple of questions for that, okay?
Yes. The Custer County stakeholders.
About a year ago, Rusty did a study, and I really appreciate it, on our landfill fees versus surrounding areas. And we were comparable, maybe a little bit low. The commission at times decided, let's not touch it, we're okay. If we had an increase and we had more money, how is that going to help us with our landfill issue?
So if you've got more money, that money needs to be spent, it needs to be earmarked. It needs to go to expansion costs. Because Rusty's at the point now where he needs to start doing the engineering for the expansion. it takes a lot of time.
Okay, let me just make
Okay.
a comment. If you take the population and you multiply it by whatever, that's
Mhm.
not going to be enough to do what we need to do to expand. So that's a nice idea, but given that, and we run the risk of driving it into the bar pits, and we run the risk of people leaving. So we have to balance that. And so what we really want to look at are all options, you know, that are available. We got time to do that, but not a lot.
No, definitely
So,
not a lot. So
we need to understand.
You look at your tip fees right now, $10 a cubic yard. Okay, a resident can choose to take it to Fremont County for $20 a cubic yard.
No, I understand.
Or they could take it to Chaffee County for $80.
They end up in the bar pit for nothing.
Exactly.
So-
However, when you don't do a massive increase, and we're not talking about massive increases, and I can, I'll get the notes from the stakeholder meeting. I can forward those to you. That lays out really a plan for funding. I think that we're trying to approach this from multiple fronts. So Christy and I have been working with CAFR, in turn working with CDPHE, trying to get more funding directed. The policy committee had voted last year at their retreat that their priority now is having CDPHE start sending funding to the smaller landfills.
Are you aware of any grants that could help us raise money to do the engineering and get the approval process?
There is the USDA Solid Waste Management Grant. It is open in December. That would be about the only one.
That you're aware of?
That would be the only one that we could really make a strong case for. I think that there are other grants that are available that we could, with some wordsmithing.
But we need to understand each of those kinds of choices. So we
Absolutely.
can help with this.
However, there's not going to be a grant out there that's going to cover 100% of the
Well,
cost of
sure.
expansion.
So how do we even know how much we need?
Because
What's it going to cost to do the engineering, and what's going to cost permitting? I don't know the process that needs to go into it, but I'd like to know, we're going to need an additional, I'm making a number, $700,000 to expand it for the next 20 years. I'm making a number. And then we can figure out how we're going to get that money. But I'd like to have a feel for what we're talking about.
Yeah, see, in 2010, just for the engineering alone was going to be approximately $150,000. And that's before you do anything else.
That's just the study, basically.
That's for the engineering,
engineering,
to
which
get
is
the
required.
permitting from
On whatever
the
piece of
state.
ground we want to plant.
Right.
And
So
we've
if
got
we want to do
some
that
that we
area
own right
fill
now,
over
some
there,
we
we
don't.
can get started over there, but that's the cost of the engineering to get it all figured out for the Colorado Department of Health.
So just to open the door to this discussion, so that in 6.5 years, we don't put a sign up closed. We need to come up with 150 grand somehow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm sure the prices have changed since 2010, and rules and regulations have changed too.
Could be higher, most likely.
But
Yeah.
when I talked to CDPHE when they were out there a few months back about that area fill, they're all for it. They think it's a great idea. And I was thinking we'd probably have to have a leachate pond down below. And they said, no, we wouldn't have to do that.
Leachate
So
is
there's
trash
Yeah, we-
juice?
we- we
Okay,
still- we
gotcha.
so there's something that we're going to save money on right there. And whether or not we have to line it will be up to the engineers to prove to CDPHE that we won't need a liner.
So how critical do you feel it is that we get this engineering study underway?
I would say by the first of next year we better get after it, because we'll have, budgets in October, and then this grant people are what, December?
The USDA grant, yeah, it's open in December.
How long does it take to go through that process?
If approved, we could probably expect to hear by February.
Oh, okay.
So it's not
It's not too bad.
It's not, and then
What kind of money
in
are they willing
February-
to shell out?
The last one that we had, which was in 2005, was I think 110,000.
That they gave to some landfill?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think we could make a stronger argument for a little bit more because of the geographic isolation of
But
Custer
they gave
County.
that much money to one landfill?
Yes.
And would that money be able to be spent on the engineering?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I do know that the match requirements. Previously, they didn't have a match requirement. They will have a match requirement, and I'm not sure what that will be. Yeah.
But see, you have the engineering, then you still have to go in there and you have to strip the topsoil. You have all your machinery. You have to do all that work. You have to put in groundwater monitoring wells over there. We'll have the 3 that they're going to drill, but we'll still have to have some closer up there, which would be up gradient. And then you have to have gas probes.
Right.
So there's a lot that has to be done before you can start placing trash in that area fill over there.
We got time. It's just got to make a plan.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And also when you say raising fees,
Mhm.
it matters on what just to raise them and then not really have an idea of the actual
Absolutely.
cost and figure out how we're going to apply things and sell me on dumping it out there
Absolutely.
and paying a little more or not. And
And that's
you gotta
where I
get
wish
the
I would
numbers.
have brought the notes from the stakeholders meeting, because we actually sat down and came up with a fee structure that I think it looked at $8 a yard initially.
Sure. But what I mean by that is if we get our actual, where we think we're going to put it, we can get a guy to give us an estimate of what the engineering might cost, given the topography and what we need to do. And then we can come up with a plan on how we're going to try to approach it, especially if we get a grant and we not know what the differences might be, and all that has to happen. So we need to come up with a process.
Right. Absolutely correct. But we need, my feeling is, we're close to behinding the 8 ball. We need to start working on that process.
I'm with you there, 100%.
17 years ago when I started with the COG, or 18 years ago I started with the COG, but 17 years ago I came to my first Custer County Commissioners meeting and met Rusty for the first time and heard him approach the commissioners 18 years ago and say, we really need to look at setting aside some money in reserves for landfill expansion.
You know, there's something about that, just my mind. The county is a service provider. The landfill is not a business. I recognize some income comes in that helps offset the cost of running it, but it is not a business. It doesn't need to pay for itself. It's a service like when we plow the roads, fix the roads, all the other things that a county does. So, and I thought, last time we had this discussion, I was thinking, we do get a significant amount of money that comes in on fee payments. Maybe we could put that into a separate account and hold that for the engineering and the beginning study, and then the county, through budgetary process starting next year, of course, maybe change the budget to allow us to pay for the amount of landfill costs that are being offset by putting the fees into a separate account. And maybe that could be done without increasing fees. Certainly don't want to increase taxes. I do think we need to be competitive, and we looked at that, and I feel we are. But I'm just really concerned we're going to be in a position in a not too distant future where we're going to be stuck with a huge expense having to truck our trash out of here, which is 2, 3, 4 times what we're paying now.
I absolutely agree with that, and I also would recommend, and it's one of the recommendations in here, you do separate accounting for your landfill, but at the end of the year, Rusty's had some really good years. That money has all been swept back into the general fund.
Correct.
And
that's what I'm talking about.
and with other counties, that's not the norm.
Understand,
The norm is
and that's a process we need to get together and figure out, just like you're saying, Jay. We got a budget. We can operate within that budget, and then we got to figure out when it falls outside that budget, how we're going to handle it moving forward.
Yep.
But we can't solve it here right now.
I agree.
What we can solve right now is figuring out how we want to make steps deliberately toward.
What I would love to resolve today is that, A, it's an exigent circumstance. We need to move forward. We need to start working on it now. We need to either put a committee, however, we decide that we want to move forward. Rusty, the kingpin on this, Beth
I'm here to help. That's
Beth helping.
really
Be good.
But
whatever.
I just don't want to sweep. I feel we need to move
Yeah,
forward.
we do.
Christy had something.
Oh, I just was going to say, last year, I think it was, the landfill operated at a $20,000 loss. And to give you a comparison, Lake County, which is not a much larger community than ours, operated at a $180,000 loss.
$170,000 loss.
So, I mean,
Thanks to him.
right, I mean,
Yeah.
Rusty does an amazing job, he's an amazing resource. He, really keeps everything under control out there, and I agree that it's a county service, but when you've got someone great running it, and you can run it for way less than, $170,000 loss.
Well, and it takes more. It takes a team to do it, and Rusty's got to go
Absolutely.
and the county people themselves.
Yes.
So we have an opportunity to do this and move forward. We just need to make a plan to do that.
And you don't
This is
have to
great
come
have
up.
the data to help with that.
Correct.
We don't have to come up with, $150,000, $200,000 right away. We could come up
Yeah.
with 30,000 and get
Sure,
started.
get started, figure out where we are, and get some estimates going on
Absolutely.
the process.
However much, 20,000, whatever, to get the ball rolling, just to get it going, because you figure you have 6.3 years left where we're at right now. Well, you're going to want to have, you might as well say 5 years, because you're going to want to be over there digging and get that prepared and ready.
But CDPHE is great at
So when
giving-
you finish these trenches and start closing where we're at right now, you're going to want to be ready over there to go over there right away.
You said it exactly right, but we got to get moving today to do that. I mean, in a reasonable period of time. We don't want to just keep.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here a year from now and have this discussion again.
We've also seen CDPHE being much easier to work with recently, and like the 3 wells that they're actually absorbing
They're
that
paying
cost.
for it.
So just so you know, we're working on this on multiple fronts.
Wonderful.
What I'd like to do, Jay,
Yes,
is I'd like to grab Rusty here after today, sometime soon, and we'll sit down and look at the steps that are going to be necessary to get to that 5-year point, and figure out what we need to do to take, fund whatever piece of it first. That build it in different stages.
Sure.
And we got you come up when we went out there with Tom and I and Jay, and we got some pretty neat options from what I see.
Yeah, we do.
And we just need to come back, and then we can build a plan, get enough people on there, and then figure out what grants to go after, what internal money we can shift,
Right.
etc. But we need
See,
to
our
be deliberate about it.
engineering, design, and operation plan is good for the designated landfill area where we are right now. If we expand over the fence to the east, then we'll have to have another engineering, design, and operating plan built by the engineers.
Sure.
So step by step by step is what we will do.
It looked like you showed us an option to
Follow
stay
that.
within our own boundary right now to make the first step, and then expand into that new area.
We had the land. Look like.
Yeah. So it's good.
There's a couple of things that gives me angst about all of this. Obviously, the money's one of them, but number one, that it was discussed 15 to 17 years ago, and we're still discussing it today. So that was a very short-sighted period of time from the leadership in this county. Should have been addressed a long time ago. But given the fact that 17 years ago we still had 25 years of life left,
So we thought.
so nobody gets in a panic about that.
Didn't like that, didn't you?
Secondly, I would love to be have an engineering firm, man. I could be raping people when it comes to this landfill thing. That is absolutely ridiculous.
I agree.
I'm hoping that we could go to CHPE and say, hey, we are sick and tired of being abused financially when it comes to doing something that you require, and when a third party is going to come in and do the work.
And CDPHE, I have to give credit to CDPHE, which I never thought would come out of my mouth. They've been really great.
Yeah.
But as far as the
But just in
engineering,
the last
the engineering costs,
year.
that actually, that's actually something, maybe policy for CFR.
I mean,
Something
it's out of
that's-
control. It's ridiculous.
It is, and I agree. I agree. And unfortunately, because the state had an audit, and so they're more amenable to funding contractors rather than staff.
You know, in my
And they
thinking, we
put
should
more
be able
weight.
to,
Yeah.
we should be able to do all of it and ready to put trash in a trench for the kind of money we're talking about, get the stinking engineering done. It's ridiculous. So that causes me some serious concern. The other thing is that, and I think we're probably all on the same page, if we're going to do any of this, let's do every acre of land that is out there and is available and under the ownership of the county. Obviously, we need to look down the road at acquiring more land if that's necessary, but, you know.
Yeah, and I went and visited in Rio Grande County, the San Luis Valley Regional Landfill, and they've done exactly that. When they did their plan, they have every plot of land, every cell.
Well, it's certainly
planned
be
out.
short-sighted not to do that. I mean, in 30 years, when we're long gone and the commissioner's sitting here, you're going to go, someone thought that ahead, and
We don't want them thinking
that's the
we
way
missed
we
it.
have to think. We have to think long-term.
We have to.
Yeah.
I agree.
And the other thing that causes a little angst with me is being a Board of County Commissioner. Obviously, nobody wants to address a tax increase.
Oh, no.
Everybody's afraid of their political career for that. They're probably a little bit more at ease with talking about increasing a tip fee for the landfill. But I maintained from the very beginning of my involvement in this whole process, if this county wants or needs to do anything different than we're doing right now, somebody's going to have to pay that bill.
It's true.
That's the hard, cold facts of it. If the taxpayers want to start transferring their refuse to, I'm assuming Pueblo is where it would go.
If CDPHE had their way, it would be Salida.
Okay. Then we need to have that conversation with the community and say, these are our choices. Either we're going to raise your taxes, or we're going to raise your fees, or we're going to buy into the transfer thing. To me, if there's another option,
Something else that we're doing.
if there's a fourth option to that, I don't know what it would be, other than illegal dumping, which would be on the verge of. So they're going to have to buy into it one way or the other.
Right. And illegal dumping is really a major concern. I mean, there was a study, Rusty talked to us about a while back, for every dollar increase, how much more illegal dumping, and then what's the cost of cleaning that up? I mean,
Well,
there
and
has
then
to be a
see-
community
yeah.
buy-in so that we hope eliminate as much of that as we can.
The thing that I was heartened by was during the stakeholder process, we did a survey, and 100% of the respondents, 100%, would support a tip fee increase, but only if it were earmarked for landfill expansion. Only
That's
for the
important.
landfill expansion.
That's important.
Yes.
That's kind of what Beth just said is kind of what I was going to say too. You know, you can't look at it as a per person rate, but it's a per bag rate. So if 17 years ago, when Rusty was coming in here, if it had been agreed to put, say, 25 cents a bag that's dedicated to landfill increase, you're more than having taken care of it, and it's 25 cents, or maybe it's 10 cents. Or I mean, there are ways to do it that's not like $10 more a yard or whatever.
No, we
so
understand that. Don't misunderstand the questions or the points here. We need to know what it would be, because to throw it out now and have people wringing their hands without the data behind it to come up with, like Tom was saying, we got to make a choice here. We got to show them what the choices are and what the actual numbers will be, if we do that. So,
Well, I'm not sure I do understand all of it. So
No, we
a
don't.
bag fee would be charged, an increase in a bag fee. You're talking about individuals taking their bags of trash to the landfill.
yeah, it's
not-
use of the land. No.
Not
so
Oak Disposal
well,
making their rounds.
So I would,
Have a
that
fee
would get
increase
an
to it.
increase as well,
Right.
but like for the individual that's going out with
Yes, everybody.
2 bags to the landfill, and that costs $2 a bag, maybe it'd be $2.25 a bag,
Right.
and that 25 cents is dedicated
Right.
to your expansion, and then maybe my cubic yard rate goes up X amount or X
And that was what I was
percentage,
getting to. The
that
bag fee
offsets.
is them going out
To
there.
have your hauler
Sort of
sit
a
here and
general
say, and
I would buy
my
into
fee
that
and
and-
my fee goes up.
Yeah.
You guys are in an enviable position.
Right, not many haulers would say that. would they?
Well,
And we're all
because
responsible.
the idea of anyone, whether it's as a hauler or individuals, having to drive basically 60 miles to get rid of their trash, that's devastating.
Ludicrous.
As an individual that lives in this community, that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely ludicrous, exactly. So the idea, I guess what I'm trying to get my mind wrapped around is, if that was the route we chose to go as a county, to say, okay, we're going to increase bag fee, we're going to increase fees, earmarking that money, then we could go to Oak Disposal and say, we also want to increase, we want you to increase your fees and also earmark that money to go to landfill expansion. I mean, to me, that would
Well,
be
you
a
would charge them a little bit more on their tip fee,
That's right.
and she's supportive
And
of
we
that.
would raise $10 a square yard to maybe
There you go.
11 or 12 or something, and
Yeah.
you would pass it on to your consumers.
A lot of other
Or
counties
whatever
have.
you chose, you're your own business, however you chose to handle it.
Oh, yeah.
But it has to be consistent with what the fair rate is, and my biggest concern is...
And I can give you updated numbers on
I know you
landfills.
can, but my biggest concern is, I don't want to say it's an extra $1 a bag, $3 instead of $2, and I find that it's costing Rusty and our road and bridge people $4 a bag because they're leaving it on the side of the road, and we got to go out and get it. You know what I'm saying? We have to, I think it's so important to have the community buy into this so that they understand what's going on. I think Commissioner Kander said it exactly right. The community's got to be involved in this. We can't just go, oh, by the way, the fees went up so we can expand our landfill. Like, you're right, you know.
So we do need the data to make that
right.
Come up with what it's going to be, including the trash haulers that come in, like Christie, that need it, or the contractors that are around bringing their big loads in to us, etc.
We get enough trash where we could raise $150,000, $200,000 in a relatively short period of time with a very moderate increase, or at least enough to get the process moving.
That's another good point. The point is, the time frame is not 5 years. The time frame in order to get this $100,000 raised is a lot shorter because you need the study to understand what's happening. Or I don't know that it's 100,000 initially. Rusty
Whatever
had a good
the
point. It
number
could be 20 grand to get an initial study together and figure out what we want to charge.
And when we sat down to try to come up with a plan, which I wish I would have brought that. We did. Okay, so it's going to cost $30,000 initially for the engineering, and we came up with a plan that would have fully funded it without being this huge sticker shock.
Right.
Of having to double your rates, or I think initially we started with a $1 a cubic yard increase, but it was a graduated increase that took you up to what the rest of the region is paying for landfill.
Let's talk to that for a minute. Custer County currently $10 cubic yard. Chafee's 15.
Now Chafee, so it's a little bit difficult because they have scales, so they charge
By the ton.
By the ton. So you're approximately about $20 a ton. Chaffee County is $80 a ton. Lake County is just they're trying to increase them now because they are upset because Chaffee County is now
over 80.
No, actually they're still at, I think they're at 75.
Oh, okay.
And then Chaffee County surpassed them, so now they're going to go back and increase their rates again.
And here we said at comparably, that's back to your point where you said we need to see where we're at comparable. We're nowhere near comparable to our surrounding county. I don't know about going south. What about Werfenham?
They don't have a landfill.
They don't, yeah. So the San Luis Valley is got a regional landfill.
Right. And that's where Werfenham County goes that way, or to Pueblo?
Oh, do they go Pueblo?
How did you get the ton conversion? I know it's
That's
volume
rough.
and other
It's a
things. It's
rough
very
estimate.
rough, so you
It's-
need to be careful throwing those
Yes.
numbers around because it's a shock thing. So.
Yes, I agree.
Well, it should be a shock to know that we're probably 4 times less than our neighboring county. Go ahead, Christy.
Compacted trash, I believe, is weighed like cubic yard of tonnage is compacted. Household trash is 3.5 times. So whatever you're.
Because you have a third that's going in that's uncompacted, that's self-haul, a 2-to-1 conversion is what we use for Lake County and for Custer County. We don't do the 2-for-1 in Fremont County because they have probably a less than 5% self-haul.
Well, obviously, we have to keep this discussion going so it doesn't get swept under the proverbial carpet. I agree with Bill. I think if Bill wants to, as a point of contact, meet with Rusty, we can all meet with Rusty, doesn't matter.
Well, we'll bring it forward.
Lay
All
out
gotta
a
get
plan
involved.
and some kind of a rough timetable,
Mhm.
and then try to attach whatever monies that we can estimate to each one of those phases.
And we're here to
It's-
support and help, and
That's good.
we'll
It's one of
find-
those things that Custer County has a landfill. We just have the land, basically.
Right.
Colorado Department of Health and Environment are the ones that regulate it and set everything for us to follow. So,
Yeah. Well, and to put things in perspective to some degree, we just talked about, we were approached and asked about buying some additional land for our landfill. I personally don't believe that's the greatest need. We would have spent about that much money on land that we'll end up expending to get the engineering study done.
Yeah, we have
So,
good other options,
me,
including an annexation of some
it's
smaller
just-
pieces.
Reinforces the idea that we really don't have any business buying extra land when we've got land that will suffice us for another 20 to 35 years if we can get it permitted.
CDPHE is, they seem to be really liking 100-year expansion plans right now. And you get the biggest bang for your buck. Lake County is in year 2 of an extension on their landfill before they implement their 100-year plan.
I do know that the way we're growing, and we're not booming, but it's growing. And look what happened from 25 years ago to now. We're not even 25, it's been less. So we gotta be careful. A 100-year expansion is
Yeah.
probably a good thing.
Another, just a word of warning is, as your per capita income or your median income goes up, your trash production goes up.
Sure.
Right now, you guys are doing great, 4.69.
Population's moving up too.
Yeah. So all of the diversion activities that are being undertaken, I don't know if HCR is as active as they used to be, but yay. Because the more we can divert, the better. Especially as...
So can I suggest that maybe we establish a workshop in the next reasonable period of time?
Let us give us a chance, Jay, I agree. It's a good thing.
We can start talking about, however, whether you want to do it in a workshop one-on-one, I don't care.
I don't mean one-on-one, but I mean, if we come
However you
back
want to do
to
it.
data.
To start talking about what do we need in the plan, how are we going to devise the plan, and then maybe eventually come up with the plan. I would really like to have that study redone, because I remember it was probably maybe a year and a half ago that you did that survey of what other areas charged, and everybody was concerned about raising the fees. So, so we can have something to see, because I think the chairman is exactly right. Why are we in dire straits, and if we're way under, if that's the case? We need to look at that and decide, what's the right thing for us to be doing.
yeah, we
at
haven't
this
done
point.
anything with the rates since 2014, so it's been the same.
And we got comparables last year, so I'll send that file,
And if we
and I
can,
can update it.
if we can get our hands wrapped around what the alternative cost would be, and that is transfer, that's information we can give to our citizens and say, you guys decide. Mr. Vogel.
An observation, when we talk about educating the community, I'm on the Round Mountain Board, and we've had at least 3 well-advertised, well-covered open meetings offered to the community to talk, because we're too, with Round Mountain, is looking at a structure that's antiquated and not reflecting current need.
Right.
In 3 meetings, well, the last 2, we've had 1 citizen attend.
I understand that, but I'll tell you where I think the community will learn it, from our 2 newspapers. If they report it.
They've tried.
No, not,
just
to the newspaper.
give yourself time to sell it.
I'll certainly never tell them what to write.
Yeah.
But they could write, here's the problem, here's the potential solutions. Here's why the commissioners may come to you and ask for an additional, landfill tax, whatever you want to call it, additional fees. That's the only way I know to get the word out. Because you're right, they won't come to a meeting if we hold it.
I actually was very heartened in Custer County. 100% of the invited stakeholders attended the meetings.
Good.
So.
Yeah, I've got some words that are haunting me too, because I had a discussion with some individuals, and a 19-year-old female said to me, we were talking about how do we get a grasp on what the citizenry of our county feels about any given subject. Mm-hmm. And she said, I just can't believe that in a county this size with the citizens that care as much as they seem to in this county that you cannot send out a survey and get 70 to 80% response. I said, I don't know that. I've never seen a survey sent to the whole county about a county issue. I agree. I don't think people are going to come sit in the meeting. They might once they realize it's going to hit them in the
Once the
pocketbook.
first bill hits them.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
our thought process.
But
Then the complaints start.
We're not gonna send a bill without it first.
Exactly.
So,
What we've really been concerned is that we got a couple of real good articles. In fact, they even overstated what the rate increase was going to be, and we had nobody show up other than the newspaper.
Point well taken, sir. Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Thank you.
In the interest of everyone's time, let's try to move forward. Do you have some cards? Or
I
did
do. I have
okay.
cards, and I've also got. Realized I didn't give you the source documentation, which is right there.
Oh, okay.
It's not included in the other packets. Just the study.
You got a picture of you in
You're
there?
welcome. No, there is not a picture of me in
And
there.
who took
There's
this
a picture.
picture?
I did on my
very
cell
nice,
phone.
Very nice.
And
And
interestingly,
had you not mentioned the water,
phones are
I'd have
amazing.
never even thought
really,
about it.
and I wish the picture of the water would have turned out better because it was a muddy day.
Well,
thanks for the help.
Yeah.
Anything that we can do to help, really.
Anytime you feel the urge to come look at our landfill, I'm sure Rusty will let you.
He loves laughing at me.
Where do you operate
Good
out of?
watching.
My office is in Canyon City.
Okay, that's
I
good.
live in Florence, and
Good.
I love Custer County.
All right, so we'll leave it, and we'll be back to this forum again with some process.
Yeah,
So
I think
Beth, you're
eventually
going
we
to,
I'm going to send you the
Steps forward.
comparables that I've got that we did last year.
on other landfills,
Yes.
And,
And then in the meantime,
Comparable
I'll also
size
look for
landfills?
grants. Yes.
Yeah, we need to get.
Well, I'll do regional and
I was
then
going to say,
comparables.
if nothing else, regional, so we know.
Yeah. I think, number one, we want to know what is in that 1 hour radius.
Right. Yeah. And then that transfer. Because that's the option. If we don't do something, we will be
We know it's
transferred.
going to be very expensive.
Yeah.
We'd like to put out there, if we do nothing, this is
Okay.
where it's going to go, and then
right.
your fees will be this much, so let's get on the
So there's
stick
engineering that
today.
goes along with the transfer too, so.
And I was just gonna say too, in looking at these prices, I think another thing that should be looked at is the per capita income for the residents, because if somewhere has an $80 tip, or $80 ton tip fee, but their per capita income is $60,000 a year, you know, there needs to be a correlation there as well.
Excellent point.
And
Excellent
that's
point.
included in the report.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. I would also suggest, Mr. Kanda, that if and when you guys get together, you might extend a cordial invitation to Miss Christie. I think she'd be a valuable asset.
Absolutely.
We got to figure it
on that. So,
team.
Perfect.
and then same with workshops. I think certainly we would invite you, and I think that would be the next step, is to sit down and workshop where we're not compressed for time and other people are waiting, get on the agenda, and then to start knocking out a plan. Okay, thank you.
This
I've
is
got
the-
one question for Beth. Looking at some of the ready out of DOLA,
Yes.
is that a candidate site? Of course, that's
Possibly.
once a year.
Possibly. They've been real hesitant to address municipal solid waste, but we've been able to get 2 very, very, very small grants to address.
Because if you read their 30,000 foot
They
justification.
helped us pay for this study. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
It's nice meeting you.
Is that big enough?
Thanks, Jay. Thanks. Always.
Come up and vacation in the landfill anytime you want.
Love, yeah.
We'll set up a
It is,
time.
seriously,
Have a
nobody believes the view from that landfill. That's why I took that picture.
Yeah, that's a great,
Gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
thank you guys.
It hasn't been put online yet.
See, our first inspector, when I first started out there in the state, he would come up and we'd just go walk around the landfill and he'd look at the mountains and say, oh, this is the most beautiful.
Would never look down, Goo.
Nothing else. Then he'd get in his car and go away. It was perfect.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Christy, thanks for your time.
Just unfortunately,
All right, our next item of business, under new business, is the Economic Development Corporation presentation. Mr. Bogle, welcome. Thank you for your patience.
What, your name?
Yeah. How are you, sir?
Thank you. Let's get this chair out of here and you can
And as just a side note, while we're getting settled in, Bill said he was going to travel to Golden on his own because he has other business. So we're down to the possibility of, you said 2 or 3 of your guys.
Three right now, looking at
So maybe Jay and I could commute together, and you guys could do your thing, and is that reasonable?
We can do that.
Does that fit into what you were thinking? Okay, good.
This is information only. I'm not going to ask for any decisions.
Way to go, Charles.
So I'm learning. I'm learning y'all's system.
All right.
And we had a communications, and if there should be 3 packages of information, and if you don't have them,
what are they?
The one is just a letter.
Got that.
Another one has
Got this.
That one, and the last one, which Brenda made copies of, should be
like a letter.
No, it's about 3 or 4 pages.
I don't
No,
have that.
don't have that. I don't believe.
I don't think you gave me that one to make copies of.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Give it to her now.
I can go back.
I don't believe I have it either.
We've got a 4-page document with that on the front.
Yeah. Well, that's a 1-pager plus.
Well, whatever's in there, that's what we've
Okay,
got
yeah.
that I'm aware of.
Yeah,
I don't have
that's
anything
all
else.
Well, and in all truthfulness, that was what was initially done, and then another thing came up.
Okay.
But like
So
I say,
let me get a grasp on things. You're going to talk us today about 2 things, correct?
Actually-
The broadband thing and the...
no, I'm not
No,
even
he's just
talking
talking
about
about
broadband.
Okay. So to conduct a community presentation relating to broadband efforts.
Okay,
That's
that
off
was
the table
yeah.
today?
Well, excuse me, no. I'm suggesting that with the ongoing confusion that, and Custer County Economic Development is willing to certainly support it from, our presentation, that we ought to have a community meeting. The rumor mill's still going, and the interpretation of what we're doing is still out there, so the intent would be to, and we realize we need an ongoing education process. So
right.
we would suggest that we coordinate, and it's probably after next week's decision would be the.
So you do have 2 things you want to talk about.
Yes.
That being one,
But
correct?
that's one.
That's the letter?
Can I make a comment on your comment? Just for my fellow commissioners, we have had in the past, multiple times we had evening BOCC meetings so that we can invite the general public, and maybe that would be a good time to do something like that.
And if not a meeting, at least to call it a workshop.
Sure.
Yeah, and
But an evening one would be
Right, I'm
is
not
much
opposed
better
to that.
attended.
Yeah.
Part to get to items 3 and 4, if you allow, is one of the things that came out of our community assessment was that we need to communicate better with the general populace. And, we used to have combined meetings between the county and the 2 towns. And I thought that was a pretty effective way of communicating and also coordinating between the 3 governments. So that's a possibility. But with the significance of the finances and the complications with the whole broadband issue, that was something that we came out of the recent discussions with y'all that, and what has subsequently hit Facebook and such like that. And with the idea of trying to squelch some of the adverse conversations,
Yes.
we'd be glad to work with you on that. There's a this part. We applied for the Certified Small Business Community program next year. It does not require governmental approval, but it does certainly encourage governmental support. And this is all the information we've got. But the thing about it is, we have been working with the Pueblo Small Business Development Center for about 2.5, almost 3 years, working with companies here in the county and in both towns. It offers, basically the bottom line is additional training and a budget that would be a maximum of $30,000 to basically establish an annex to the Small Business Development Center office in Pueblo. The submittal is, I forget what time, but we've got a little time on that. But the bottom line on that is that we would appreciate a letter of support and towards that effort. Two of us already, Wilson Jarvis and I are already certified business consultants from the Small Business Development Center, and we've had some successes and some failures. As far as companies we work with, which have certainly, in our minds, reinforced the idea that this would strengthen our business community.
So, Charles, since we haven't had a chance to really read this,
I'm not expecting.
I know you're not asking for anything. That's good. We want to make sure that what it means to sponsor, and we want to make sure. I will read it. And we want to make sure that the public has time because that's why we advertise it.
I tell you what,
how to get this out.
I have a whole lot of respect for the public, but typically the public.
If they don't care, that's their problem.
Or they don't know.
Well,
part of the issues with Small Business Development Center and businesses, and the first thing is to know that there's some folks here that can help them.
Mm-hmm. That was my real question is, so you're certified, what does that mean?
That means we are an arm of Small Business Development Center officially. They recognize us as being that. Part of this element is visibility on the community so that the businesses know that there's an agency and people, and especially local people.
And you have talked to the two towns already? Or
No, I haven't yet.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, we've been working with...
That's where the center...
Yeah, but we've got, we've been working with some of the, what's her name, with her beef products and stuff like that. Elin,
and we have a meat factory out there.
Yeah,
we
have offered help to those. Part of the problem is for the people to realize that they need help. And that's, just so far into a business cycle. We started working with some guys that had a diesel plant facility out here, and somehow they had kept it alive for 3 years after we heard what they were, and we started the process with them, and they decided they were going to close the business.
Well,
but
it was decided.
Yeah,
I don't know that they willingly decided.
Oh, I
it's
don't
a matter
know.
of economics.
Well, and like some of us couldn't realize how they stayed open as long as they did.
It's a travesty that business closed down.
Put this one up here, you mean?
Yeah, north.
Sidewinder diesel.
Well, and we'd been working with a Critical Path Metalworks since the onset, and that surprised all of us.
That was a shame.
But anyway, please read that. All we need from y'all is a letter of support on it. A previous board when we submitted it last year, but obviously we need to update that, and we will be contacting the two towns. And
okay, when do you need that by, or is there?
This is like a May-June time frame.
Pound on us a little more.
The applications close the 1st of June, so we've got time
Would you
on that.
provide that letter for our signature, or would you like us to craft that document?
I can provide you something on that.
Rural response recovery and
Can I ask
resilience.
one quick question, Tom?
Sure.
Because you brought it up. So the letter of support we're going to have to understand, are there other people, or is it just the CCED that's certified? What is it? Is it open to be participating, so there's a lot of people involved? How's it set up?
If you can find anybody else in this county that wants to get involved in economic development, we would be gladly embrace it. I mean, we've been to this 6 years, and there hasn't been anybody. In fact, I run people off because I tell them they come to one of our meetings, and I said, chances are this is the last time I'm going to see you, because the ones of us that are doing this, it's a full-time job.
Well, it depends on how you sell it, though. I mean, what
I want to be truthful.
My point is, no, that's a good point. You're missing what I'm saying. Our endorsement on this, we want to help. And how do you sell it to people that says, if this board's going to be good because we're going to have experts here and we'll save businesses from closing, or we're going to get businesses to bloom, or what is it? What are we selling here?
Please read this and we'll discuss it further. We've got time to do it.
That's why we need the time.
And that's why you've got it.
Any chance that Custer can be included in the 4R counties? Has that been determined, this rural response recovery and resilience one? I wonder what
that's a new, I don't know. And I don't know that we are. And there's a question, why aren't we? Because we're obviously...
I don't know what page it is in our numbered.
Oh, on the western slope. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I just wondered, if that's something we could look into and say, how did they qualify? Do we? And what does recovery mean?
This is one where we submitted last year, and the manager of it, they extended the submittal date, and they offered some help to work on some of the answers, and it came back through SBDC that, hey, Bogle wasn't responding to email inquiries. And, well, the first question, did you all really submit it? I said, yes. And there was criticism that we were not responding to emails. So this was past the due date. We lost out and everything for last year. I talked to the program manager, and she's, being a little confronting. And she said, well, you didn't answer my emails. And I said, what email did you use? And she left a letter out of the email. So hence, I never got any of her messages. I said, on any correspondence I put out, there's 2 phone numbers. Oh, well, I don't use that. I talked to her boss at the state level. She has been here. She's visited in preparation and support of this cycle. I think we got a real good chance of getting it, but because the one thing that differentiates us is with the active coordination that we've been doing for almost 3 years with the Pueblo office. So, and we're willing to support it. So it's
well, everybody in small rural communities complains about that statement, right? Ineligible counties. So we finally got a program that's saying we don't care about the Front Range. We're talking about small rural counties, and that's heartening for me.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Well, if you will craft up a document for us to consider, I think we can have this conversation again.
Now, just to reiterate, the board did give a letter of support last year. I thought we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're going to update everything with turmoil of people and all that. I would like to bring another information item, and this is the one that Brenda just did. This is the one time a year opportunity for DOLA Ready grants, Rural Economic Development Initiative grants. You may remember we had a community assessment last year with really pretty good attendance. On part of my problem was with all of everything that was happening last fall, and when we had a kickoff meeting, and then I let it die because I didn't see the vision of what it was taking to progress it. What we had originally asked for was an economic development master plan, of which nobody in this county's done, to try to structure how we want it to be and give a certain element of control to it. One of the recommendations of the community assessment was that we should get a economic development master plan, which I said, oh, that's sharp. But anyway, which would be outside of the grant that we got from OEDIT for the community assessment.
I've checked with OEDIT, I've checked with DOLA. OEDIT says we don't have the money, go to DOLA. So, and this is the one opportunity this year. It's effective the end of this month.
Effective meaning submit a request?
Yes. And there is, I've got a consultant that's given me an estimate right now. In part of the application, in the last page or two, there is some data that's required from the county as it relates to tax base and such like that. There's an overview of the application, which, and we submitted this a year or two ago to your counterparts at that time and was unsuccessful in getting approval to go forward. Again, this is the information on it. The significant is with Ready, and I confirmed this talking to Christy the other day, this is the one time a year that this window opens up.
What is this money for?
And this is, you want to use this for your economic development master plan?
Yes.
Correct, whatever that, let's say it's $30,000-$40,000
It
or whatever.
should be in that range or less,
Yeah. I
Is there any
don't see a
county
problem
match?
with,
Is there matching funds from the county?
Well,
Says
it's suggesting your chances of getting it is better if you've got some. I would suggest and would come to you, of the budgeted items that are available now, I would suggest probably something on the order of $5,000 would be show good effort on our part, and without really hurting us.
If I'm not mistaken, wouldn't that pretty much deplete our economic development budget for this year?
No, you've got 23,500 less the one thing that we've come.
right.
Okay.
Or at least that's what I've been told.
Yeah, we took a bunch out, did we not?
I
Didn't we
No.
put something?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so. I think it basically, the understanding was that it wasn't, it was open for anybody that wanted to come in and do anything. And,
No, and I could see that being a reasonable request for that.
but I would like to be on the agenda for your end of the month meeting, and we'll work. Like I say, the input from the county would be the last item that has to do local government financial information.
Would you do this study? Would you hire a professional consultant to come in?
I've got a dialogue going with a woman that we identified a couple of years ago, and yes, and she is well connected. She's been in economic development local and works with a lot of governments and such, and the idea, and I'm going to go back to the state, to OEDA, and say, hey, I need help to progress the CAP situation.
She's local?
No, she's in Fort Collins.
If she could send some credentials before I commit any county money, I sure would like to.
I'll show you her website, and it's impressive.
That's what I want. I want something other than my neighbor's friend does this for a living or something. You know what I'm saying?
No.
And I don't mean that derogatory in any way. I just want to be good stewards of
Yeah, you bet. I'll send you the website. Her name is Cheryl Trent, and in fact, it's the Trent. Let's see. I'll send you her email.
That'd be great. Thank you. Send it to all of us, obviously.
Yeah, and I thought when I read this initially that the objective of this Ready grant was to, certainly won't be able to quote it verse by verse. Let me rephrase this whole statement. You feel like your objective of trying to get a grant funding a master plan falls within the realm of what they've set up for this.
Certainly.
Ready.
And I've had that encouragement from Christy and such like that. So, and I don't think it's they've indicated in this message they've got 700,000, which I think is a little less than what they've had. But then that's a DOLA issue with their overall funding. But
and then our end of the month meeting is March 30th, and that is the deadline for this application. Do you want to come before us at our mid-month meeting on is it the 21st? in Wetmore.
Down in Wetmore, yeah.
I could probably do that.
If it works out.
I understand, yeah.
Yeah, we'd be up against the deadline of this whole Ready grant.
Well, in all truthfulness, being very frank, pending the current and recent discussions, it was a serious decision on my part as to whether I would even proceed this. But
why?
Because I wasn't sure the support that we would get on the broadband program, and it's very, where do we put our efforts?
You got 100% approval.
Well, that's why I'm asking this week.
At the end of the process,
I understand.
At the end of the process, you got 100% approval, didn't you?
But Charles, I'm a little bit confused if you want an answer by the 30th to get the application out. I understand that it involves three kinds of programs that, or the way it describes it, there three types of projects are eligible. And right now we don't know what those projects are, right? And so what are you asking for? You're asking for a grant to go develop what's good for this county, or what?
And implement.
So we don't know what that is yet.
That's why we're doing it.
I know, that's why I want to make sure it's clear.
And part of the deal is we've got certain direction that we've been taking without a consensus of the community. And whether it's broadband or affordable housing or any of these other things. And it's just like we were talking earlier, it's a matter of getting the community involved and getting what tweaking and redirection, because people over the last 6 years have said, well, why do you do this? And I said, right now it's because we think as a group. Yeah.
What it is a strategic plan for development in logical steps for this community that fits the environment, fits the personnel, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right? And so we're going to have enough information to pull together a pretty good application.
No doubt about it.
To go after this. Is that right? Have you gotten a start on it?
Well, yeah. I did it 2 years ago.
Yeah, and this really is the start.
The good news is we've got the findings of the community assessment that we did last year. And that's one big step.
Okay. Who did that?
That was done by a team from Office of Economic Development and International Trade. It also included, Christie was on the team, John Hall, who's the Economic Development Director for Westminster, was on the team, plus a fellow from the DOLA Data Group and a couple of the
Okay, so you're going to dust that off and you're going to update it?
No, I'm going to implement it and follow up on its findings.
Then bringing us up to speed, forgive us for being new guys here and not having had the benefit of that. And last year it got turned down or something, you said, by the previous board. I don't know what happened.
Well,
so
yes.
Let's get the history here and understand why.
If you want to know the workshop.
Patient. No, I don't care about workshops. I care about getting the information, and I care about what you're asking for. So be patient. And so you're asking us to do something here in less than 3 weeks to sign up to it, and we want to be professional about it and get the right stuff in front of the people that want to grant things, and make sure we all understand what you had proposed or good steps, things we wanted to develop for this county. And maybe Jay knows more than we do because we haven't been involved in it. But I don't know what your strategic plan was. And
we didn't have one. That's the whole idea, is to try to have one.
That's right. The way forward. That's what I'm implying here. So you got it. It says it must relate to those kinds of things. So we're going to charter a group to go after and develop that strategic plan. Is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
If I may, we're looking at applying for a grant to fund a study to come up with a management plan for economic development in this county.
That's the ultimate goal.
That's what this Ready grant is all about, is trying to fund a study.
Well, we started a series of meetings, and the idea was to have a monthly meeting with citizenship of the CAP, the community assessment, because they left some holes in it. There were things that they suggested we did. There were some inaccuracies in it. But the idea was it was a building block to transition and ultimately be able to provide an economic development strategic plan. And so we're kind of taking that, and with the CAP study that was already done, grow on that, and probably over a period of 6 months or so, and then collect more data, generate more data, and poll and get the feeling of the community, and then turn it over to some economic development.
See, what's confusing, Charles, if you read through the application overview, it's saying project type, project name, project description, creation, for renovations involved. See, this is like a specific thing, and you're saying you want to get something that's a step back from that. You don't
Not really. It talks plans.
Yeah.
And especially, the first item, projects include a plan to help diversify the local economy, strategic plans, etc. And that's where I'm saying that we would fall in. It's not an infrastructure, because we're addressing like broadband and such
I
separately.
was just looking at what your application actually says that you got to address if you're going to address it, which is an attachment.
And one of the things we found out in past history, I could gain, it's an internet proposal input, and they've changed it where before I could get a login and such and do it, but now they're requiring it, and Brenda and I've talked that the county basically set up one entrance into this database, and so obviously that's something else that we need to accomplish.
And your cap obviously was this county or community, it was not a regional assessment.
Just a county.
Okay. Good. Okay.
A couple other information items. You've probably seen, and Bill, I'm sure you've seen, Action 22 is having a broadband conference on the 23rd, and I would encourage you. It's going to be more involved with the state funding and some issues there.
And talk to Sarah.
Yeah, I intend to be there.
March 23rd.
That's March 23rd, and I don't have the email right now, but it's
what the time is. I haven't heard.
It's from like what was it? No, it's in my book. I think it's from 10 till 2 or something like that.
Okay. So it's Action 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't gotten it. Let's see here it is.
I can send you provide an email on that.
Do you know where it's at?
Yeah, send it out.
It's someplace in Pueblo, and I'm
probably in the Thatcher building, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Also on the 15th of this month in Salida, we have a kickoff meeting with our tourism and outdoor recreation sector from 10 till 2 at the Annex in Salida. And
by the Annex, you mean at the steam plant?
It's steam plant, yeah, of the Annex at the steam plant.
Okay.
Luis Benavides, the state's director of outdoor recreation, will do the kickoff speech.
Okay.
Where was that?
Steam plant.
You know where the steam plant, and you wouldn't. In most of the meetings are in the big room, but there's a deal to the west along the river there that will seat about 100. So.
Okay. Good. Is that a lunch thing or?
Yes, and we are Custer County Economic Development is basically supporting that sector operation this year.
Okay. Do we need to RSVP to that or?
There will be announcement come out, and it will help identify the numbers because we've got a contract for the lunch.
Date on that was what?
That's the 15th.
Yeah, I have that on my calendar, or had it prior to today. So.
I will get back with Kathy, and I'll let y'all know when we. She's volunteered to come up here, and we'll give her a workshop on her and bring her up to speed on our total broadband initiatives. Because I've already talked to Representative. Our representative, the U.S.
Tipton?
Yeah, Tipton. Yeah, I've already talked to his people. I know his Pueblo office manager, and they will give us a letter of support too for the Economic Development Administration grant. So,
good. Do you think that tourism and outdoor rec meeting in Salida be worth attending, obviously.
We're trying to, this is principally these sector meetings, economic development and other functions are supposed to be facilitators rather than decision makers. So the real trick is to try to get our businesses involved in this thing, and it's been a challenge. But this is a collaborative effort between the 4 counties within the COG, and the idea that basically from a tourism business standpoint, if we work together, we're stronger than if we work individually. And the realization that, you know, Royal Gorge brings a lot of people here, but you can spend a day and a half at the Royal Gorge, and then what else do you do? Go back to Kansas or Oklahoma or Texas. And the idea is to cultivate the whole 4 county area on a, and I like one thing that one of the guys said earlier. If you come to Colorado on vacation, there's certain things in your mind that you've got that you'll do depending upon the season. It may be skiing, it may be rivering, it may whatever. That's one of the reasons that we've emphasized the trails situation here locally, because we don't have the river running through us and we don't have a ski area. So it was a matter of being a responsible member in that collaboration. And this is really an effort to try to explain to business owners what a sector is, because it's some of us have been exposed to it for 3 or 4 years, but the whole part is that the economic development and the tourism boards, the institutional organizations basically manage the support structure for the businesses, but it's supposed to be business driven, and that's where we've had a real challenge here locally. So I would say this, if any or all of y'all could attend that, at least it's something that our business people could see that you're supporting. And granted, most of them are in the 2 towns, but it affects all of us. So, and I'll bet you'd learn something too.
That's on the 25th.
That's the 15th.
Or the 15th.
Yeah.
April or March, I'm sorry.
March. That's next week.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I intend to attend that.
Well, and if you haven't listened to Luis, he's an interesting guy. I mean, he's climbed a jillion mountains, but he's a real good proponent for tourism in the state. So I will provide you a copy of the email on the
tourism. Jay, shouldn't we have tourism guys going?
Oh well, our tourism board's an active participant with us, and that we've got a group that we call a round table, just a real informal group. And if I've told you this before, but it involves tourism board, chamber, economic development, and CART. And we've done it for over the last year of at least trying to collaborate and coordinate. And like we've got a branding issue for the community coming up late this month, next month, and tourism board's taking leadership on that. And
so in theory, they'll be there, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
They'll be heavily involved.
It's good.
Got any other questions?
I do not.
Charles, considering what you get paid from this county for doing all this, I thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yep. So now I got to go home and work on some slides for Tuesday.
Yeah, good night. I'm worried about getting there. You got other things to worry
Well,
about.
and I missed a haircut this morning. So.
Sit down, I'll give it to you. Half price.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Anything else under new business, gentlemen?
Say no.
Not for me, sir.
Okay, I have none. Public comment? Any?
Public's gone. They lost interest.
Well, not all the public's gone.
Except for the newspapers, but I see them folding their.
If there's no public comment,
Press
Chair will
yeah, it is. Isn't it?
entertain
Get
a-
out of here.
I'll move that we
motion to adjourn.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. Let the record show 12:02 p.m.
Not bad. That's at noon. That's good. Sort of.
All right, thank you guys.